So only California people do operate.
California. We have our,
Yeah.
all right, we're on. So we are a few minutes late, but we are on. So everybody should know. Olga's going to now share it. Oh, yeah, you got to switch it back to the right thing. Okay, so it's Friday, June the 13th. It's Friday the 13th. Is anybody superstitious?
Saturday the 14th is worse.
Why is that?
I don't know, but it was a great movie.
There was a movie Saturday the 14th?
Yeah, it was a spoof.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. So
Tomorrow is his birthday.
whose birthday? Oh, tomorrow is President Trump's birthday. And tomorrow is also the 250th anniversary of the Army. And tomorrow is Flag Day. And tomorrow is No Kings Protest Day. So that will be as much of a dud as I think all of their other things are. Maybe not. We'll see. I mean, I think they're trying to get people to react. Where can they, let's have 500 of these protests everywhere and see if we can get somebody to do
protests and 50 people each.
Right. And the problem is if at one of them there's any violence, it will be, or any type of counter protest where they do something, they'll make a big deal out of it and talk about that, as opposed to let's take the attention off what's going on in LA and all the sanctuary cities and all that kind of stuff. So I would suggest that most people that I know suggest just ignore it, move on. I'm surprised I've not gotten a call from the press this time. The past 3 protests that have been kind of out there, the 2550 or 5050s or whatever, 505001 or whatever those things were, those all, I think the press would call and I'm like, I've never even heard of it. So they're the first person to call me about it. So, the press will go see these things because they're looking for clicks, they're looking for things like that. So, but I'm not too interested in
And
it.
we do have an alternative option.
Oh, and what might that alternative option in the morning here in Greenville be? The Love Life Prayer Walk.
Third anniversary of the overturn of Roe v. Wade.
For the 3rd anniversary of the overturn of Roe v. Wade. Now, was it overturned on the 14th? Is that the actual
We're
date?
only doing it once a month. Kylie's just doing the Love Life Prayer Walk once a month in Greenville.
Okay.
So that's why we're doing it this Saturday for the month of June.
Okay.
It was in June.
Okay. Good. Fantastic. A lot of the Supreme Court rulings come out in June. That's part of kind of their session. And Olga, have you checked the volume? Is it working?
Yes.
And also,
Glenn is on our. He's texting me and everything is good.
Okay. So the GCRP pro-life community joins with Love Life to pray for the closing of the Greenville Women's Center. We will meet at Christ the King Church at 1223 Grove Road, Greenville 29605. Join us at 9:30 a.m. for a prayer walk. So that to me is a lot more exciting than watching a bunch of wackadoodles. So I guess if Drew McKissick can call us names, we can call the Democrats names too. So that's going tomorrow. I think that'll be exciting. Sir?
Tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow morning.
Oh yes, tomorrow in the afternoon. Several of us are going. I think it's about 4:00, Olga. 4 to 6 is Pickens is having their barbecue, and so a lot of us are going over there to support those guys. Pickens, as we all know, with what's going on with the Pickens County Republican Party, at the state EC meeting last Saturday, the 7th, Drew and those guys. Somebody apparently they didn't have the 75% to disorganize them, the votes, which is a good thing. Because if they don't have 75% to disorganize Pickens, maybe they will come after Greenville. So they'll leave us alone. So we'll see how that goes. But but they put up a motion to essentially sit Pickens in the corner until the next state EC meeting in September. So what Pickens is having to do is they're part of that motion was that they can't use the Pickens County Republican Party name. They can't use the bank account. They can't use the website. They can't use the email system. They can't use any of that type of stuff. So what they've come together, and I don't know if this is kind of their final name of what they were going to do. So they canceled the barbecue, hamburgers, hot dogs, that kind of barbecue, and then they re-announced a new barbecue with the Pickens County, or it's Pickens Republicans Stand United. Right. So much like we should have done here in 2023, when Drew McKissick and the state party took over our reorg, and they took over. You not have the big screen? Does it keep just switching by itself? Okay. So, like what we should have done in 2023, when you had Drew McKissick and the SCGOP taking over our reorg, taking over all the convention, all of that type of stuff to really hurt us, it should have been a joining moment where other people came together. Now, what happened with us in 2023, we had the rhinos and splinters, what we call them, all started working together and attacking us, MAGA America First, really because they were working with Drew McKissick, right? So that was always been my theory. Adam Morgan and the Freedom Caucus and all those guys working with Drew McKissick, and that's what they did. So they thought that was their best opportunity to take us out, since we caught them cheating in 2021, and so they kind of flubbed on that. So, but the good thing is the fact that they were not able to take us over in 2023. They decided, oh, we're just not even going to participate. So I thought that was in 25. So that was like a nice Christmas gift. So we appreciated it. So when Rhino said they don't want to participate in precinct reorg, that's fine. Because what we do, even though we want to grow the party as much as possible, we have no particular responsibility to sit there and actually go out and recruit establishment folks. And nor does the state party. The state party is doing what they think is right. They want establishment. They want more blue Drew type stuff in the middle. I don't agree with that. Oh, there it is. I'll put it up on the screen. We are now learning. we now have production capabilities with our live stream. So as you can see, they're doing a potluck. If anybody is in the local area, wants to come, I think A through H, bring an appetizer, I through Q, a salad, and R through Z, if that's your last name, bring a dessert. And I guess they will provide the barbecue. Maybe it's actually barbecue.
It is, they're providing meat, I believe.
Meat? Okay. Fantastic.
Barbecue.
I was thinking it was a hamburger and a hot dog. So but if it's actual barbecue, that might be even more exciting. So
They could barbecue crow and fight rhinos.
we could barbecue crow and fight rhinos. So, actually, I don't want to fight rhinos. Let's get those people. But if anybody's in the area up here in Greenville or coming from Oconee or Anderson, anywhere in the upstate, come on over. I think it'll be a nice opportunity to unite and do some things like that and to support Pickens. The good thing, and I've told my Pickens friends, I hate what's going on in Pickens, but guess what? It's actually waking up a lot of people. I'm like, I don't know how many slaps in the face we need. I mean, what they did to Greenville 21, Greenville 23, Lexington. We got Pamela Godwin here today. She'll tell us a good little update on a few things here in a minute. What they did in Lexington, what they did to Horry County, what they did to Oconee, what they did to Charleston CD1, what they did to Charleston in Reorg,
Georgetown.
and some other places, because there were some other people. I think Jeanette Spurlock was actually Marion County. She was told she could not participate because she was somehow associated with my SCGOP.
Just like in Georgetown.
Just like in Georgetown. I hope Jeanette and other people are not mad at us about that, because there was no necessarily association. But we are associated in our thought process. And our thought process is we support Donald Trump, we support the MAGA America First agenda, and we don't support the rhino establishment in the state. And we want closed primaries, and we want real school choice, and we want judicial reform, and we want all those other types of things. And what now?
Term limits.
And term limits. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, think about the other thing. I might want to suggest to our legislative chair that's here today, we may want to add term limits and recall provisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, imagine if we had been able to do a recall on RJ May. Wouldn't that have been nice? I mean, everybody knew what was going on with RJ May. And I will tell you, one of the things I put out earlier today, and just mentioned to some people, we've been fighting RJ May for nearly 10 years. He was part of the Freedom Caucus, part of the founding of the Freedom Caucus and all that type of stuff. But before he worked there, he worked at one particular organization, South Carolina Club for Growth, which was on the other side of school choice from us. We're about real school choice. They or at least, the people that were party to that. I think there's good people at Club for Growth nationally and some things like that. But the state people were certainly pushing, government-run type things, and they didn't want anybody messing in their business. And RJ was part of that 2 years ago. He was the leader of it. I think he was the executive director of it back then. And so it's funny to watch people now react to RJ May and try to distance themselves, namely the Freedom Caucus, which there is no new information. I mean, I read the indictment yesterday. There were 10 indictments, and they all were for the same thing, for sharing apparently a video, 10 different videos between April 1st, and I think maybe there was an April 2nd and April 3rd. But that's just when they caught them. Nobody woke up one day and said, "Oh, it's April 1st. I'm just sending a bunch of porn on something called Kick, the Kick app." Who's ever heard of the Kick app?
It wasn't just porn; it was child sexual abuse.
Yes,
which is
yes.
really sick.
Yes, there's different ways to define it. And I'm not. I really want some of those people that covered for him, worked with him, to sit down and have to look at those videos. I think I actually think it's probably much worse than we assume it is. It's not like
People
whatever.
affiliated with it.
Yes,
They
because
need to be
yes,
taken down.
yes, they do. And and it said that it was, in the indictment it said, oh, this video was shared, it had the last 4 letters of it was shared with another KIK app user, and all that. I mean, fine. I want who's that user? Who is the other user he shared it with? If it's in America, let's go after. If it's international, and there's ways to go after those people internationally. But don't just say, oh, he shared it with somebody. Let's only go after him and make a bigger example of him. And go after all of them. I mean, that's what the ridiculousness is about. Is it Giselle or whatever? Not Giselle. Well, who's the girl that with Epstein? Yes, Maxwell. Whatever. Her name. How does she get convicted and not nobody else? Who are the other people?
It's just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence.
Well,
We didn't. We convicted her on doing something, but we don't know any of the other parties that participated, and that's right.
John Roberts and Steven Spielberg, among many others, and the royal family. But it's just a coincidence because of their power that they're not indicted.
Well, regarding RJ, go ahead.
I assume this is just a very, very tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, he's a Polygon.
Regarding RJ, an interesting tidbit from my understanding is that he used to be an aide with Joe Wilson.
I would not be surprised.
And we had no idea. He didn't tell any, like a lot of us in Nebraska.
That sounds a little familiar, but but I think he is from Lexington in that area, and it is it's called the Lexington Mafia for a reason, right? And there's people that are associated there in Lexington with the Republican Party that today that are not what you would assume is really what they're about.
Thug tactics.
It's the
And now they're infiltrating from California into our
yes, the chair down there, the SCGOP installed chair, a guy by the name of Mark Weber, who we put out an article. I don't know if I was there, but I got the picture from some of our friends in Lexington. He literally is driving out from the state executive committee meeting. He's in his vehicle. There are people, some panelists, people out there protesting, and he literally holds his hands up and shoots the bird. I'm not going to do it because I don't know why people shoot the bird, but they do. I mean, is that the representation of a county chairman? Is that somebody that the state party should be supporting? I do think we have.
Well, if that bothers you, you should see him scream at 90-year-old women.
I've
Army
heard,
veteran.
yes, and the pushing that I've heard of the protest at the bank where they took the money. In that sense, push literally knocking people into a busy street, a 4-lane street,
Highway.
Or highway. So I mean, it's this is what runs people away from politics. This is what we will not tolerate. This is what we fight. And as I told other people, when if our side ever has to stoop to these tactics, we've already lost. I'm out. I'm not. When I got to cheat, when I got to lie, when I got to do those things, I'm out because I'm like, obviously that's not what people support. The good thing about what we do is I think that people do support the mass number of people are good, God-fearing, hardworking, conservative people in the state of South Carolina, and I don't think they go for this stuff. And we try to teach people not to be politically or mentally manipulated into falling for these things. But it happens all the time, and you see it all the time. We literally had somebody, and I'm not going to name their name, but they shared a document that was a passport renewal document, right? It was dated. It's expired already. it was dated as created in 2022, which is under Biden. It had a question on there. You have to answer male, female, something else, right? It's like the most ridiculous stuff. But that's what the Biden administration did. The literal document has expired already, and I think it expired 4/30/2025. There is a replacement document that does not have that on there. I think Trump has actually issued an executive order that literally says you have to stop this trash. There's two sexes. That's it. Period. Knock yourself out. You're transgender. Pick one. I don't really care, but we're not putting these other things because quite frankly, they put those other things in there not to not offend those people, but to sit there and drop a seed in some kid's head that they think, oh, well, I can't have a third gender. I can have something else because it's on here.
It should say
it's a government
male,
document. It says like,
female, or mental illness.
that might stop. That might stop the problem. It should. I would be fine with male, female, mentally ill. So, yeah, but the only problem is that it's also mentally ill. Yes. So, but that document was put out there, and it was put out in the sense of writing at the top of it an attack on the Republican Party. That the Republican Party, the GOP, is corrupt. And I'm like, literally, the Republican Party and Donald Trump fixed this problem. And we informed the person about it. I actually went and did the research. It took me probably 30 minutes to go find the form. I went to find, there's a way to, I got to renew my passport. Holden needs to get one since we've never gotten her one. So I'm trying to keep her trapped here in America. So she now that she's a citizen, she can't leave on a green card. She's trapped. Oh, trust me, they wouldn't. If I gave her an opportunity, so she'd be out. So that's why I won't let her play the lottery. Because if she wins, she's gone. She look, stone face. That's it. That's your quote for secret agent. Yeah, that's it. A lot of my friends used to think she was a secret agent. Yes. So, but I you can actually renew your passport online. So I actually started the renewal process just to get to the 5 click-throughs or 3 click-throughs to find out what the question was on the online form. The online form had male or female. And I'm like, we have to stop this. If Jeff Davis put that out, because I know it'll rile people up. It'll get clicks. I could have put that out. This is what people do. This is what they will teach you in political advocacy classes and stuff like that. They'll say, hey, put out something that's going to get a lot of clicks. And then put at the bottom, please sign up for our email. Now, this wasn't done by this person, but the learning process of putting out things that are inflammatory that will upset people, and that has been my beef with the Freedom Caucus because I've seen them do that 1,000 times. Put out things that are inflammatory. Oh, we're fighting for your rights and all that kind of stuff. When they're really not doing it, they're just trying to collect names and get donors and all that kind of stuff. And you don't lie. I mean, there was not happy with what they did in regards to the pay increase for our legislators, but it was not a 150% pay increase. I mean, it was stupid the way they did it. There's a discussion to be had on whether you should pay them more, not pay them more. I actually would like to say, hey, why don't we have show your income tax return. If you make less than 50 grand, we'll pay you more. That way, somebody who doesn't make a lot of money, or would have to quit their job and would make less, pay them more, right? But if I'm a lawyer and and I'm making $200,000 and I get elected and I'm now making $400,000, which is really the issue because as I've said before, one of our friends told us one time they knew somebody who was a lawyer, got elected, and became a house rep or state assistant house rep, and their billing rate doubled. That's what's happening for the lawyers. That's what's happening probably for the insurance guys and the realtors that then have more clients that want to be associated with somebody that's a legislator as opposed to just some Joe Blow real estate person off the street. But the guy that's an electrician has to take 3 days off of work, right? So, and if they only make such amount, then pay them more, give them some more money. I don't have a problem with that. And I would like to encourage and be able to say, if we find a good candidate, say, you know what, I don't have the money to be able to do that. We'll say, you know what, if we get you elected, you'll get this amount of money plus more, because more than the 10,400 the legislators currently get. So there's a discussion to be had about it. The Rhinos just threw it in as a proviso budget That's a total disaster of a PR thing. Have the discussion, but those rhinos probably wouldn't have gotten a pay increase under my theory either. So, but it's been quite interesting to see who has said they do not want that money and who hasn't. Now, they had a deadline of June 3rd, which was this past Monday, to just disclaim, the money, the extra money. I've seen a bunch of people posted out there that they did it. Some people, I don't know. I really wish we had a good list of everybody that either said, I'm not going to take the money. So I think what we can do is probably file a FOIA request with our House of Representatives, or maybe they'll just give it to us, because they probably want the information out there too themselves, since the speaker asked or gave people that option. But I mean, let's find the data and then say, look who took the money and who didn't. I don't know what the answer is going to be. I hope some people that sit there and scream the loudest about it, that sat there and said, oh, this is 150% pay increase, blah, blah, blah. I hope every single one of them didn't take the money. But I got a feeling some of them took the money. I don't know, so I can't really say. But I have seen a lot of establishment people, or what you would consider more establishment people, say no to the money.
It's against the rules. And they're just following. They're just saying, rules don't apply to me.
Yes. There's a rules issue. Then there's people making hay and filing a lawsuit saying it violates the Constitution or something like that. I don't really know. So, but I haven't dug into that piece of it. But it becomes more of a, I want to get my name out there, as opposed to what is the real discussion about, how do we pay people? How do we get normal people, regular people, to participate in politics?
Normal.
What's normal? None of us are normal, but I can tell you the ones that are in office are super not normal. So, and we got to get regular people. So as y'all all heard me say 1,000 times, just like jury duty, I would be very happy to take a random sampling of 124 people and stick them in the House of Representatives, and 46 people, stick them in the Senate. I think we get better results than the election pieces and stuff that we get now. So, but that's my theory. So we'll push through all that. So, but what upset me about this person doing this is they knew about it. We told them that, hey, this is misleading information, and they still kept on social media everywhere posting it out there and pushing it, and it just made no sense.
Well, to me, what's interesting to see, this specific person started kind of attacking us on school choice. They suddenly decided that all school choice is bad, and there was no place for school choice, period, which makes no sense, because
If all school choice is bad, what are we going to end up with? We're going to end up with what the bad people want, which is government-run school choice, which is the UN agenda, government-run school choice. The last thing the UN agenda wants is a bunch of people like me and a bunch of other conservative groups out there running, private school choice for Christian schools. That's the bigger problem. And I've talked to a lot of people on the national level that have been, hands off, we don't want anything. They're now waking up to the fact that, wait a second. We're losing battles. South Carolina got lost this year. What did they pass? ESA. Did they pass a tax credit scholarship run by independent nonprofits that would fight back against the government? No. They passed an education savings account, which is run by the government. Do you think anybody at the Department of Education is ever going to say, I don't think you really need to ask those schools for all that demographic data and all that other information? I really don't think you should pressure those schools by saying, hey, we're going to cut off your funding unless you stop teaching, the Bible or whatever. I mean, take it to the extreme. It's eventually going to get there. Why did the Bible get taken out of the public schools? They found a way to logically, in their minds, get to take the Bible out of the public schools. And they're going to do this eventually. It may take 20 years, but they'll do that with this program too, if the government is doing it. Because there's not a single employee, I think, at the State Department of Education is going to sit there and risk their job and say, stop, you can't do this. Yes, we may be funding 90% of the school, maybe even 100% of this private Christian school through the ESA program. We may, but we can't tell that private Christian school what to do. Nobody's going to say that. Somebody's going to sit there and say, you know what? We really are. We're funding 100% of this private Christian school. It's coming from the lottery. That's taxpayer dollars. Guess what? It does make sense that we should tell that school what to do because we pay 100% of their fees. That's what's going to happen. But if that is not going to happen, if you got some crazy wackadoodles, and I say that in a positive way, running an independent nonprofit that says, no, you can't do that. We collected the money from these donors over here. We give it to the school. And if it's not in the law, you're not going to do it. Because that's what got us in trouble. That's why we're here today. That's why the government came after us, is because we sat there and said no to the it's not the Department of Ed. It was not who we were dealing with. It was the Education Oversight Committee. And we told the Education Oversight Committee, started asking for demographic data. Oh, how many of your kids are white or black or this or that? I'm like, where's that in the law?
Right.
We don't even ask for that information. I don't care if the kid's white or black. I don't want to even know. I mean, it's a kid with a disability, and if a school gives me the list of who is most financial need, if we can't satisfy all of them, that's where the money goes. That was it. I didn't care if they were black. Why is the Education Oversight Committee asking me this stuff? I said, and I told the schools, and the EOC, Education Oversight Committee, and it was Melanie Barton. She's now working directly for the governor. She's his education czar. They started asking the schools for other data, and I told the schools, I said, here's the law. Look at the law. You do not have to give that to them. We have to give them stuff as the nonprofit in between the government and the school. We have to give them financial information. And, I told the school leaders, I was like, you can give them whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you, you shouldn't, or you should. Well, I told them they shouldn't, but I wasn't there to tell them, what to do. They can do whatever they want. They want to give that information to the government, knock yourself out. I think you're crazy, but knock yourself out. But I said, you don't have to. It's not in the law. And so what did they all say? They said, oh, give them all the financial stuff that you got to give them, but nothing else. And they came after us, and we sued them. Got the biggest tax lawyer in Columbia to represent us. And what was funny at the time, and he was a head tax partner at one of the big firms down there, and he thought this was just going to be some easy little thing. It was obviously a mistake. Somebody was confused about something, and he gave us a good rate. I think it was half his billable rate. And he went in there and met with the Department of Revenue, actually the director of the Department of Revenue, who's now gone, and I think in large part because of the fights that we waged. But he came back and said, oh, they're definitely targeting you. They're definitely coming after you. There's something going on. And he, at that point, because he represented a lot of corporate folks that had to deal with it, he didn't back out fully, because once a lawyer is kind of on the hook and taking the case, they have to do that.
It's a code.
But he dialed back substantially. He was not in there fighting. He was not going to sit there and kill the golden goose for him, because the golden goose for him was his big corporate clients and being able to negotiate with the Department of Revenue and the bigwigs down there and getting good favorable rates for his corporate clients, right? So all that kind of type of stuff. And I'm like, you're telling me they're targeting us? Write it in the memo, or in the motions, the things we were following. He just wouldn't do it. Or if he did, he'd bury it, page 8 of 16. And I'm like, how's the judge going to get to this? So, but it was, that's where we learned a lot. That's where we first learned, because that particular individual, I think, was one of the people, and I've had a ton of them tell me since then. It is not unusual for a legislator to call a judge and tell them how they want a case to turn out. So, and I was just sitting there, and I was floored. This was back in 2014, 2015, and I was just like, this is not what they taught me at USC Law School down the street. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
The grift is real.
The grift is real, as Pamela says. So it's out there, and it's a heavy lift if we want to fix it, but we can't fix it, and part of fixing it is just waking people up to what is going on. So I think there's more and more things that people are waking up. Our methodology, our process has always been, we got to take the party back. So if we take the party back, we got the bully pulpit to be able to get good candidates elected. And once we get good candidates elected, then we can get good legislation. So that's the plan, and that's what we keep sticking to. I don't know how you skip taking back the party and the bully pulpit. Drew McKissick, I was one of those people. I was the good Republican that, chairman of the Georgia GOP or the South Carolina GOP says something, he must know what, he or she must know what's going on. That must be the Republican to vote for. You know, it's literally the opposite, right? So, but we didn't know that at the time, and you know, now we know. And I attribute in great part, we learned it a couple years earlier than a lot of people, because we got involved in this in 2013, 2014 on the school choice side. So we figured it out. Like, oh my God, it's happening in my home state. This is unbelievable. And I think Donald Trump woke up the entire country, the entire world, that, oh my God, this is really, really weird. And, you know, it's a real problem. So I think the world, I think history, and, you know, Steve Bannon talked about it, but history will look at what he did, Donald Trump, of waking up the world to what's going on. Can you fix this? Waking people up to the fact that there is a deep state. I mean, remember the old days? It was like deep state, and it'd be like, you know, what do you, some conspiracy theorists. Now everybody talks about the deep state, right? I remember the days when you first said there was child sex trafficking. They look at you like you were some nutcase. And I'll tell you, I'll go along with anything. I think you gotta be willing to listen and consider anything. You know, but I didn't truly understand child sex trafficking until somebody explained to me the economics of it.
Yeah.
You know, we all know there's drug dealers, right? There's tons of money in drugs. You know, and the simple explanation about child sex trafficking is, well, drug dealers, you can make so much money, but you gotta go make it or manufacture it or grow it or whatever the hell they do. You gotta then transport it, and you got all this legal stuff, and you gotta try to get away with stuff, you know, and then sell it, and then you gotta go back and get more and do that. So, you know, it's a business. It's tough. Child sex trafficking, I got that child, I sell it to this person, and then this person, and this person, this person, this person, this person. That's in one day.
And then get the adrenochrome, which is,
Get all that.
I don't even know how much it is per liter. And that's why you look at, I won't say the names, you look at certain actors and actresses, and one day they look like they're 27, and the next month they look like they're 400.
Right.
That's because they're going through KURU, KURU, which is withdrawal from adrenochrome / cannabis.
Wow.
I don't know all of that yet, but I have no doubt that something like that is out there. It's real.
Yeah.
So I haven't experienced, I haven't seen it, and there are other people that have, and are big believers on it. But I'm like, just like with my theory of, you know, oh, well, you know, I don't know a drug dealer, so there must not be drug trafficking around. But I don't know anybody doing sex trafficking, but I don't know anybody doing that. You probably do. That's the real scary part about it. They're out there, they're everywhere. And it's just, it's a much, human beings can be.
They're a great example of that. Maybe not sex trafficking, but Judy Garland. I mean, they drugged her to death
Oh yeah.
when she was a little kid.
Yes.
That's
She gave her uppers and downers, and
Yep.
just so she could be in the movies, be a certain size, and that. And she died young. They drugged her.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
And it's all about money. And I think the root cause of, I'm more of a financial person, I think the root cause of all this is money.
The love of
The love of money. You know, greed, love of money, all that type of stuff. So,
power and perks.
yes. Yes. And I will tell you, I mean, I've represented and worked with a lot of very wealthy people. And it's like, people are looking for another high. And it's like, you know, you used to think, well, they get money and they go back, buy a bunch of stuff, and that's their high. Oh, then they get into drugs, that's their high. What's the next thing? What's the next thing when you've had everything? It's probably the sex trafficking. It's all this other stuff. How do I stay young? How do I stay young? How do I live forever? You know, that type of stuff. And it's scary out there. And you know, and you have people that will literally look you in the eye. And I've had it way too many times with politicians about normal stuff. I'm like, why would you lie to me about that? If you're lying to me about that, God only knows what else you're really lying to me about. You know, and I posted a screenshot of it that just happened to run across the old email where during in 2021, and I'm going to pick on the Freedom Caucus because they deserve it this week. But in 2021, you know, as when we all knew about the reorg fraud up here, we knew the rumors and we heard people out there door knocking and harvesting ballots and all that kind of stuff. And somebody in Adam Morgan's precinct, you know, we had the list of these people that made delegate. And it's like, well, they didn't come to reorg. Where did they show up? How did they get involved? Well, one of our people went knocked on the doors of those people that they actually did the hard work. That's what we teach people. You have to do the hard work. You can't just sit there and say, oh, they're cheating. And, somebody come save me and pound the table and cry about it all day. What you got to do is file a FOIA request. Get the list of everybody that's a delegate in your neighborhood, in your precinct, and go knock on their door. Ask them how they got to be a delegate. And one of these people told this person who was investigating it, said, yeah, Adam Morgan and some guy named Dan came and knocked on my door and asked me to sign this Form 1. He told them the day that it was between the reorg and the makeup, and that's how they got stuffed in there as a harvested ballot. This person who did the investigation didn't know who Dan was. Well, Dan was Dan. I can't remember his last name. He was not Dan Hamilton, but it was the guy. No, not Dan Hamilton. It was the guy that was the head of school at Bob Jones Academy. The headmaster at Bob Jones Academy and Adam Morgan were going to people's houses, knocking on their doors, and getting them to sign up, to be harvested delegates in 2021. And I'm like, and these people that they were investigating at the time, because remember people that protested in front of Adam's office building, because that's where Nate Boyd was running the whole operation out of, Majesty Music. They went and knocked on talked to Adam, because Adam, in his arrogance, came out and talked to people that were protesting outside of Nate's office. Adam came out there and was talking to him. He said he didn't know anything about the reorg fraud or any kind of cheating. He was literally participating. He was literally the guy that went and knocked on doors. So people say, I got a beef with Adam Morgan. Yes, I do. I do have a beef with Adam Morgan. And I will continue to beat on him and the rest of them that sit there and have used our people and lied to people about politics for their own, to ingratiate themselves.
So most of you probably here know this, but maybe not. Before Presley passed, he was a mentor of mine and incredible human being. He showed me a video on his phone of people that have been mentioned. I'm not going to say the names right now, but they've been mentioned already. Being involved in the ballot harvesting, he had video of them on his phone, and I saw it with my own eyes. And so if anybody says anything, I'm like, you have no idea. I saw this. I saw the footage. I saw everything that they were doing. And it's just people don't want to believe it, or they want to look the other way and go, oh no, they couldn't do that. And it's not the point of, oh, I'm harping on this and somebody wants to have revenge. No, it's about the knowledge of it, that they did it, and it's actually what happened, and take that information, and as you deal with them and others in the future with them, you know how to, approach things. Right. And you remember. Doesn't mean you don't forgive, but it does mean that you don't forget.
Right. Agreed. And what I try to compare it to, if I lived in Sumter County, who's the number one legislator out of Sumter County? Merle Smith, Speaker of the House. If I lived in Sumter County, and if I said, guess what? They're cheating reorg down here, and Merle Smith is out harvesting ballots, cheating. I don't think many people would doubt it. They would say, oh, yeah, he's a rhino. He's a horrible human being. We need to get rid of him. Yes, Jeff, you're right. You're 100%. We believe you. And they would probably believe me without any evidence. And I'm sitting here saying, just because I'm in Greenville, and just because the person I'm saying the same thing about is Adam Morgan, who talks our talk, and several other people that were involved in it. And I mean, why is that not believed? Why is it not believed? There's a submariner over here. George and Martha from Washington. George was actually a submariner, and I love his ringtone. It's down Periscope because we're going down. The Russians are coming.
That's what we feel like.
That's right. I don't know the Russians or Chinese, whatever.
Somebody's coming.
Something's coming. But I mean,
I even forewarned him before we came in. Did you check your phone?
It's quite all right. It provides entertainment, and we love it. So we gotta love George and Martha from Washington State. You just can't get
We
past it.
actually refer to them George Washington.
I love that.
We're like, it's
Oh, that's
George
great.
Washington.
But the fact, I mean, that's what I do with all of these things. I literally will switch the roles. If I say something bad about a group of people, can I say something bad about a group of people and switch it? Well, and say, hey, what if they were, black people? or Jewish people, or a bunch of white rednecks, or a bunch of this, that. I mean, switch those roles up and then look at it from that opposite perspective. And I'm trying to think, what was the example I had the other day? It was I don't know, it'll come back to me. But I'm like, just because I'm saying about Adam Morgan, nobody believes me. But if I said the same darn thing about a Rhino legislator doing it, everybody would believe me. And I'm like, that's not how we have to be. And we have to run, if we want to win this fight, we have to run a professional organization that does the hard work,
Right.
the pick and shovel work, as Steve Bannon would call it. And we have to, we cannot ever compromise. And Olga and I were sitting there this morning, we're talking, it's like, it's the weirdest thing. Our group and what we've done and the folks that we work with, I mean, we've been opposing some of the stuff on the Freedom Caucus on this side, even though they talk our talk. And we're over here certainly fighting the rhinos on this side and doing that. But I'm like, but we, I think as a group, have always stood on principle, all straight down the middle, calling the balls and strikes the way they're supposed to be, and we don't compromise on things.
Right.
And we're not going to compromise. And it is a much harder route to go by not compromising. But I think if we don't compromise, we can actually win. It will take longer. It will take more work. It will, we will suffer setbacks, but we will build our movement on a foundation of bedrock as opposed to a foundation of sand, which is what those guys are doing. And who knows what the heck's going to happen with the Freedom Caucus, but they're getting slammed all over the place by almost everybody. And it's actually quite interesting to see the 1 or 2 or 3 people that will defend them. I'm like, I don't know how you defend a guy that's, uses the code name Joe Biden in 69 to be sharing, child pornography or that type of stuff. Why the heck didn't he even pick Joe Biden's name? That's the weirdest thing on the planet right there.
You can have, like we've said before, you can have those bad actors, and then you have someone like Rob Harris, who always has been voting, aligning with us, and he's been honorable as far as I know, and to me personally, and so we get behind that.
Right.
And get behind him, but there's definitely handfuls of others who have shown that they align with the establishment.
Right.
And that's not okay. You're either with we the people, right, for liberty, or you're not.
Right. I agree completely. And I'm painting them with a broad brush, and I should.
Right.
I should. It's individuals that they're responsible with, and I'm also but I will tell you, there's a problem with Rob ought to lead that group. He really should. I know you feel like you're not part of something and you want to feel part of something, but you have to say no to it. You have to stand. I mean, they did not want Rob Harris in the beginning. Rob Harris was too crazy for them.
Oh, I didn't know.
The Freedom Caucus did not, folks I talked to said they did not want Rob Harris.
Because he's so right leaning
Yes.
and God fearing and over the target.
Right.
Just like his kids.
Yes, very good. But until we, and I actually gave them after the state convention, or maybe it was before, I reached out to both Freedom Caucus people and the Family Caucus. I said, if you really want to build something the right way, get rid of the money special interest that's backing you and work with the grassroots. We will back you. We're worth more than, the $30,000 to $50,000 that Young Americans for Liberty come in and do door knocking for you. We're worth more than the
Americans for Prosperity.
Americans for Prosperity was on, but the text messages that the American Action Fund or whatever is sending out, the grassroots and the party, the MAGA American First People, are worth more than that money you're getting, and they don't want. They would rather get the door knockers. They'd rather have both. They'd rather have us backing them and the money. But I'm like, you got to give us the money, sir.
Money just goes around in circles.
Yes.
That circle.
Right. They don't want to do it. And it's like, you know what? They're willing to pay for door knockers and mailers and send out text messages, which will add up to be a bunch of money. And it's kind of like, you'd rather have that than the people or the trust of the people. It's not going to work for long. It's eventually going to fall apart. And they will ask you for more. And they will ask you to do things. But once you compromise a little bit, and you compromise a little bit more, and you compromise a little bit more. And I will tell you, our fight with school choices, I tell you, it has sucked. It's been 10 years of fighting this type of stuff, for 10 plus years, but we've learned all of the tricks. And I will tell you, part of the tricks was, and we were talking to another friend earlier this week about it. We've documented in the school choice fight that they were putting in at least $2.5 million plus a year, and probably over the 10 years that the big money was in the state paying for it before we got involved in this whole the real crazy started. They probably spent $40-60 million, and it was out of state money. And and they were giving campaign contributions to people. Dan Marvell, our friend, actually got one for some of those people. And he's like, I didn't know at the time. I was like, Dan, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Take the money if somebody's offering you. And if somebody came to me and said, hey, I see you're a big school choice supporter. I want to give you, $30,000 for the South Carolina house. I'm probably going to say yes too. So I'm like, I don't really have a problem with it. But I had a politician, elected official, tell me one time that he was part of that in the old days. They offered him the money, and he took the money or whatever. But then they started asking him for other things. And you know what the interesting other thing was? It had to do with the immigration thing, the whole like letting in the cheap labor. And he's like, I'm not about that. What are you talking about? So that's when he realized they were asking for more, and that the school choice piece was just an entree to get them involved and get them on the hook. And then once you're in office, you want to stay in office, and you don't want to offend those people, cut off the folks, because you've already probably alienated some of your grassroots people. And so you've lost those people. And like, well, the only way I'm going to stay in office and keep doing good, as I initially thought, is to sit there and to take the money and the mailers and the door knockers out of state kids.
To be a part of that, is I've always called it the cronyism feeding trough.
Yes.
They're all at it.
Yes.
And not all, but a lot. And it's just not okay. It's a short-term win.
Yes.
Because you're always going to pay. There's never something free, a free ride. You're going to pay.
It's a short-term win, which will end up being a long-term loss. And eventually those people are gone and they just disappear. But guess what's left? The same thing that we've been dealing with and fighting all the time. And I shared with our legislative committee chair the other day, I just happened to run across it, an old, 4 years ago, kind of somebody asked me, well, what was my SCGOP stand for? And I said, well, here's kind of the platform of things that we did, closed primaries, all the things we got. The only thing on that list of maybe 10 legislative initiatives that we or things that we kind of supported was Second Amendment stuff that's been achieved in the past 4 years. Nothing has changed in 4 years. We're still fighting the same stuff. This far in advance, and I know we made some improvements on the pro-life side. At least we're down to 6 weeks, but it's not where we need to be. And it's not like they're even trying. So, am I right? No? Okay.
It's round and around and around.
Yes. And the machine just keeps going. Guess what? As we're looking at all of this stuff we're trying to fix, they're sitting there raping the hell out of us. What was the budget?
Laughing.
Yes, laughing. And what was the budget this year versus last year? That extra $1 billion, I think. This is just one state.
For liberal.
Stuff. Yeah. So an extra $1 billion got funneled into something somewhere. And, we used to look at it all the time. They bitch around about school choice. Oh, it's so expensive. And, it's going to take from the public schools. I'm like, it's a $20 million or $25 million program or $50 million program we were proposing. And I'm like, we just had $1 billion surplus. You know how many times over the past 10 years I said, we got $1 billion surplus this year. And you can't carve off $20 million for a bunch of special needs kids that will literally pay money back. I mean, you take a kid out of a public school that's got a shadow, and all that kind of stuff. Like we're paying $40,000 a year for the shadow and the school education. I mean, some of those kids are costing $70,000 a year. Give them a $10,000 scholarship to go to a school that's private, that's run by a bunch of volunteers. It actually saves the state money. And I researched the Georgia program earlier this week on some other things we're working on. In the Georgia program, literally, and they've got the data to prove it, it's a $120 million program that saves the state 50% of it. So if it costs the state $120 million, they're actually saving an extra $120 million on top of it. So it cost them $120 million to have the program. It actually saves the state $240 million. And they run the data and they've got the data. And it's pretty easy to, I know it on the anecdotal side because I look at a kid, we can send them to Camper Down or Hope Academy, and dyslexic kids or autistic kids, and it only costs, $10,000 for a scholarship, or 15 or whatever it may be, and then versus what it would cost them in the public schools, and it's much more expensive in the public schools, and it's just like and it was funny talking to my mother about what you said extra, but she literally talked the other day. She was an educator, then got an administration, was principal, all that kind of stuff here in Greenville County, but she talked about identifying kids in the early days with dyslexia, and they couldn't read. She has one particular kid that, it was a black kid that sat there and let people think he was a drug dealer because he couldn't read, because he would go over and work, late nights, washing, dishes and all that kind of stuff. But he was so embarrassed he couldn't read. And what she did is help him get to, some of the things that where he could learn to read and wouldn't be embarrassed. But he had gotten all, through a lot of school before anybody identified him. And I told my mother, I was like, do you realize? I mean, because now they're doing a lot more for dyslexia. The public schools are starting to do it. I'm like, do you realize somebody made the decision somewhere along the line, probably to, let's not look at this. Let's not identify this as something that fits under, Americans with Disability Act or something like that. Because if it does, it's going to cost us $100 million. They're like, oh, we want teacher raises instead of $100 million.
That was $1 billion surplus.
Not with a $1 billion surplus. It can't go to. And it used to drive me nuts. One thing they would do as part of the surpluses, they would spend money on beach renourishment.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, it's like Folly Beach. Oh, we're going to spend $20 million on beach renourishment.
Save a starfish, not a kid.
That should be the
Slogan.
slogan. Yes, you had something.
Oh, just a few things. So, people being on foot, once they do something sexually, financially, or whatever, they change. They morally change. And so basically, you're talking P. Diddy politics in South Carolina. Because once a person gets perverted by whatever bribery, blackmail, etc., that's what happens. The $1 billion surplus I was going to mention, but that would have taken care of 1 million homeschool kids, because the average literacy is 99%. It costs $1,000 for a homeschool kid. The literacy rate for public school kids, state school kids, is 33%. And it costs $17,000 per kid. The whole issue, I've said this before, but it's basically that the teachers and the unions go really bad because they're afraid of it. This is a word I looked up a few months ago. I love this word. Alethophobia. If you want to look it up, you probably know. But ALETHO, phobia, is the term for intense fear or aversion to the truth, often stemming from an unwillingness to confront or acknowledge facts and realities. It can also be described.
Can you repeat that?
Yes.
Sorry, we need to speak louder.
Yeah.
That is my word. I'm in.
Nice and slow.
I like to learn new words.
ALETHOPHOBIA. Alethophobia is the term for an intense fear or aversion to the truth, often stemming from an unwillingness to confront or acknowledge facts and realities. It can also be described as an aversion to or fear of the truth. Example, 1940, Berlin. It was only 3% were Jew haters, Nazi sympathizers, and a lot of, sadly, the church went through this. I won't go into the whole. Basically, it must be God's will that Herr Hitler is in. So therefore, we need to pull back. There was a 90-something-year-old lady who passed away by now, but she was a Lutheran, and the cattle cars went by the back of their school, and she said she can't forgive herself for what she did at the time. The Jews would go by and thought, this is a church. Maybe people will help. They're supposed to be Christians. So they would scream as the cattle cars went by, and the Lutherans instead would sing louder and play the music louder. And so it's the human nature to be the salmon that goes into the cutters, not upstream, because it's so much more comfortable to be nice. That can read tunnels, human trafficking, No, I'm going to water my azaleas, and I'll be in my thing with the club or junior league or a billion other things. But I'll get my $25 here, but I don't want to do anything else because that might be uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to be one of those 3%ers that went against Hitler because then somebody might not like me, and I don't want to be like a Joan of Arc or a Wilberforce.
So you're saying you're gonna go down?
I think all of us here want to be that. That's,
So most.
Olga, can you pull that up?
So
It's a human nature to be lethalphobic.
are you saying that you're gonna stand against the No Kings tomorrow and stand and be a watchman on the wall?
I have other things I'm doing. I don't have that scheduled. But basically what I tell people, there's a lot of people say, well, what can I do? Because I've got this or that or whatever. I say, okay, you can pray, organize, knock on doors, write letters to the editor, form groups, form petitions, run for office. So there are a billion different ways to do it. And I'll just be blunt. I've got my friends raise the dead, okay, and my friends' friends have raised thousands from the dead. Okay, so I'm not like Mr. Rogers Christian. So what I'm saying is there are lots of ways to approach this, and people can do something. There are like 50 different ways to do it. So no, I don't have that scheduled, but I'm doing a lot of other things. I've got a newsletter, kind of a private newsletter that goes to people around the world right now. Yeah.
Under Hitler, people were frightened for their very lives. German people were.
Right.
And I think we had a sample of that when COVID struck.
Correct.
And
That was the purpose.
and in January 6th,
Right.
we only had a sample of what happened to the
Yes.
German people.
Right.
So I just want to say that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Basically, being blunt again, the church in America miserably failed the last 5 years because for every Rodney Howard-Browne, Shane Allen, Mario Murillo, etc., you have hundreds of thousands of pastors who are, oh, I don't want to lose my 501. People might not like me. And I don't want to hear, oh, yeah, my pastor's very loud. But most pastors and church leaders everywhere did next to nothing. If there are, I think,
And
9,000.
they would not have lost their 501.
Yes.
They did something.
You're so right. Josh Cabral, who I don't really follow, but he gave once a statistic of 9,000 churches in the upstate. And so if you extrapolate that, say 2.5 people per fellowship, that's 22,500 leaders. Imagine if 1/10 of those leaders, about 2,200, would have stood up on street corners or wherever, not doing the mask. Rodney Howard-Browne is a friend of mine. He has the church, the River Church in Tampa. He got arrested, and then later on he was exonerated. But all these people, like, that might feel uncomfortable. And so that's
just a sample.
Yeah.
Of what happened.
I can give an example of that too as well. So I had a pastor I really liked a lot, that I lost a lot of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Yeah, respect's good for him. But we were doing a lot of protests during that time, COVID and after with the tyranny and the stolen election.
Right.
And he would participate, but he would wear an outfit, a cover up. He would show up with a wig or a big hat, and yeah, and I was happy he was there, but I was also very much disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he finally quit.
He did.
He talked a lot, but
my dear wife talked with a lady who, and I won't say which the pastor is, but he's the pastor of one of the 5 biggest fellowships in this entire region. And she twice confronted this head pastor, said, will you pray for America? Is it like newsflash? There's like bad stuff happening in America. What do you think, pastor? He said, oh no, I will not pray for America.
well, then you should leave.
That's
You
right.
should go to another country and pray for them.
Right. Well, yeah, my thought is like resign and go back to bookkeeping and your used cars. But see, that's what this guy did. And so when you do that, then you lead a whole congregation astray into fear.
I think the event tomorrow here in Greenville is people like us. I think they snuck, it just looks like that by the description. I think
Your
they snuck-
event? Okay,
No,
so-
not ours. No, please, if you look on the website, because if you read it. It's
Oh, it
about-
looks like it's us. Yeah.
It looks like
Yes.
it's us.
Yes.
So I hope it all goes well. I also saw something about how the sheriff is gonna be very involved, so I think the organizers probably, but I mean, I think they probably talked to the sheriff and, I think
But when
hopefully.
you say it looks like us, but you're saying it's like a scam?
No, I think somebody
It's
that
really-
looks like they do organize it. I don't
No,
know.
no.
And I think they got it on the website. They kind of snuck it on.
It looks like they're patriotic, but it's run. It's allegedly Soros and all that funded.
Yes.
But that on the board of it is that who's that Nancy Weingarten or whatever? She's part of the.
Well, but
She's
for the Greenville event, it's different. It's
Okay.
promoted differently. The write-up is different than all the other ones.
well. I think a lot of that is what we try to teach is the political manipulation.
I don't know.
I
I
think-
don't know who organized it. I feel like it's somebody that thinks the way we do.
This is the same organization that back, what was it, 3-4 years ago, had the big protest downtown, blocked traffic over at the Wellness Arena.
BLM.
Does it say that, the Greenville write-up?
Actually, it was their own press release saying that it's the group 50501. That's the name of the group that's actually organizing. this.
Right.
They are a left-wing, for they want basically a socialist government.
I think it's definitely coming from the left. Now, we'll see what happens, all that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting. But I have seen some things where it does kind of look like it's a patriotic thing. And it's kind of like, well, all the discussion is it's not. And it's the people on the other
In
side.
Lexington, we're gonna teach them the difference.
Are you?
Yep.
Yeah, so the one in Columbia is it's at the Capitol.
Okay.
And AG has put out a statement that if you are involved with this, on the other side, you'll be arrested if you're doing anything that's above and beyond protesting your First Amendment rights. They're claiming they're going to arrest them all and shutting down all tyranny. Right? That's what he says. But BLM came and we went out there, stood in front of Lindsay's building. There was I had like 7 people with me because it was last minute. I got a notice from a cop. They called me and said, hey, by the way, BLM showing up at this time. And so we went down there and put seats against the building and flags and bullhorns. And we sang hymns and prayed. And hundreds of them were marching to us. They wanted to get in the building and we were blocking the doors. And this is still on WIS. It's a video, 2 hours long. And they kept doing their heads and chanting and screaming in our faces with their, craziness. We're getting in there. I'm like, no, you're not. By the way, he's not here today. There's no reason to get in this building because Lindsay's not here. Right. And they're going crazy, want to get in. And they finally, at the end, they stopped. And they looked at each other and said, they pointed at me and said, she's got the keys. And I'm like, look, I don't have the keys. And they're like, you've got the keys. Like, no, I don't. So I kept praying over them through the bullhorn. They looked at each other and said, let's go to another place. Let's go another direction. They turned and walked off. You can see it in the video. We still
They
have
were
it.
marching by.
Oh,
And when was
great.
this? 5 years ago?
This was
Yes.
when they came downtown Columbia, blocked off everything. They had Molotov cocktails and cop
They
cars.
burned stopping cars. They
Looted
broke on
looted
officers'
businesses
legs
in
so
the
bad
Vista.
he hasn't walked since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's in Columbia.
I
Yes.
tried to get deputized, but
I'm glad you did.
we're talking to people about tomorrow about, how to prevent all that because they want to burn restaurants. They're talking about
Yeah,
burning down
looting.
restaurants in Columbia tomorrow. So-
Columbia is different. than
It's
Greenville.
very different. It's a
Yes.
small.
Richland
it is a
County is
small-
definitely different.
And that
We
is
don't
a
have those
small-
problems. We got problems. We don't have those problems.
We don't want our city burned and we're not going to allow it. So,
So we've got.
a bunch of MAGA boys are getting together.
I just heard probably a couple hours ago, somebody called in on Word and they were saying from Columbia, saying that Soros group is busing in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not going to allow it.
6
They are.
buses dropping people off.
And they did this for BLM. So we're preparing. So we've got one team just praying from home, prayer team.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we've got some just sign making and
Home
some
banners.
hold signs. And then we're letting the men go do their own thing.
We're putting our boots on tomorrow.
So that's what we're doing.
Be careful, don't get arrested.
Well,
But I did hear 2 things in
peacefully
that. 2 things in that,
Peacefully.
violence.
should be okay too. I did hear 2 things, so I need to clarify.
Okay.
So you're telling me Alan Wilson is hard on crime and he should be our next president?
No,
No, we're
he's
talking about
saying that.
Did you say that? Did I hear that?
So let me add this in. He said that during BLM.
Did he? Oh, yeah, he said
Oh,
that.
yes. And what happened? Looting, officers being, injured, Molotov cocktail. We saw it all. throwing them in. We saw them in circles doing and throwing them into the cop cars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was wild. It was like smoke and fire and every. I mean, this was real.
It's a summer of love.
It was. It
Yeah.
was.
I hope I'm not overreacting. but
And I didn't hear of any
I'm
arrests.
place.
And then I didn't hear or know of any arrests then.
What'd you say, George?
I hope I'm not overreacting, but I'm very concerned about this place tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's.
I'm
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
Oh, this building.
yes.
It's possible. We've thought about it. We've considered some things. Yes. Yes. Yeah. But
Well,
the second thing I also heard you say it was Pamela Godwin protecting Lindsey Graham.
oh, so I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna add that. Hey, okay, you take
I mean,
that.
whoa,
Yes.
That might ain't never gonna come here.
You did it.
So,
You did it.
yeah, so I'm gonna answer that because I'm going to. So when my cop friend called and said, "Hey," and I'm like, where are they gonna be? He says they're headed to Lindsey Graham's building, and I knew that he was in D.C. at the time.
Yeah, but-
And they were like, well, you want to come out there? And I said, let me make some calls. I was able to get maybe like 7 of us. Like it was right then. And less than like 11 hours. And so we just
Well, you prayed
started
about
out.
it.
We did pray about it first. It was to me, it was defending South Carolina, defending us, we the people, and saying, we're standing up to you, you know. And by the way, Lindsay's not here, so go somewhere else.
Well, it wasn't who
Don't
was in
tear
the
down our
building,
buildings,
who
don't blow it
represents.
up.
I think it represents the building itself. It's our taxpayer. This is our city. And you don't get to decide what gets burned and what doesn't. And that's basically what it was. I mean, we're never been for Lindsey Graham.
I'm teasing.
Yeah.
You know I'm teasing.
Except for when he was going against Jamie, because
That's another
he
story.
was the lesser of the two
Right.
turds. So-
Right. So, and I will add this in too, you know, before Trump, before him and Melania came down that, you know, escalator, before all of that, but before becoming awake, before they're being red pilled, you know, like you said, at that time thinking, oh, the leader must be okay. We must be okay. They're in office and they're doing the best for us. And then we found out it was the exact opposite.
Yes.
But many of us, if not most of us in this room, at that time thought differently. But praise God, we are awake. We've seen the light, and we're fighting. We're fighting for us every single day, every minute of every day.
I thank God for that too.
Yes,
And we're winning. I think we're actually
Yeah,
winning.
we are winning, and even
Yeah.
small wins need to be celebrated.
At least winning and getting the truth out of what's really going on.
Yes.
You know, it just takes time before action takes place.
It took a long time to get here. It's going to take a while to get to where we need to. But I think we're actually getting there faster than I think a lot of people realize. And we're actually winning. So, I mean,
Just don't make fun of Axis, Lindsay.
Now is not the time to take a break, it's time to keep
Oh,
pressing forward.
yeah. No, Trump's second term was
There is
just the beginning. So, yes, Karen.
I have a comment. There's been a thread on the Signal group about how much they get paid to be a legislator.
Oh, yes.
So I, you know, personally, I would not want to, I don't think anybody really wants to put up like $50,000 to $100,000 of their money to litter the streets with their name in red and blue. So I think this huge amount of money that it costs to run for office is a deterrent to normal people, that you have to pay for all this kind of stuff. So like, why are campaigns not done where you get a certain amount, everybody gets the same amount of time in the newspaper, on the TV, on the radio, on the internet, you know, and they're capped. They can only raise so much money to maybe pay for like a town hall lunch or something. Like they get like, if you're a county councilman, you get like 2 town hall lunches. If you're, you know, a US senator, maybe you're capped at like $10,000 for your town halls or whatever the amount is decided. And you have like a committee, maybe by lottery, that has to include a certain number of Republicans, a certain number of Democrats or whatever that, you know, decides on like, these are the questions that every candidate has to be asked. These are the position statements that they have to fill out for the newspaper form, because normal people are looking like, where do I go to find out what each candidate stands for? Why is there not like a page that has to be done in every newspaper and every, you know, internet website, where every, you know, WYFF, you know, has to have a page where every candidate has filled out the answers to certain questions in certain positions, where everybody can go and find out exactly what they believe? Because this, you know, the roads are littered with these stupid signs. I mean, to me, that's just stupid.
Yep.
You know, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of plastic. It's cluttering our landfill. So, I mean, there's a way better way to do this.
Their
This is dumb.
mindset is the more times people see their name,
Right.
that they think, oh, I remember that name when I get it voted. I
But
remember
that's
his name.
ego.
So-
I mean,
And that's what they do. And it's like you're saying that they disenfranchise normal people from running because here's what they do. Just to put your name on the ballot, you gotta pay to get put on it.
Right.
You got to pay a percentage of what the job, what the position pays. That is where they keep people out.
Yes.
That's where they keep normal people out. Normal people don't have.
But the bulk of the expenses that these candidates pays are for these signs and all these other, these internet, you know, advertisements on TV.
Well, number one, the people in power are there because they work that system. They're not gonna, they don't wanna change it. It's like getting term limits, right? You know, how do you do that?
Well, we should be talking about this.
I know.
It's insane.
Yes.
This is how you should run for office.
It's a good conversation to have, and I think they've tried different things like this in different states, different countries, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know the right answer because I haven't analyzed it, but it's been tried. Your frustration is obviously valid because it is a little ridiculous. But I actually have a theory that if the grassroots is involved, I think for 10% of what a normal campaign costs, I think we can actually accomplish it. I think with 10% of the money in efficient grassroots operations, I think we can accomplish it.
I mean, you were saying that, the message is formulated by special interests. But if you have an organization like this here, you can get out. I mean, one of the jobs of an organization like this is to pre-qualified candidate or to coordinate for questions as you qualified candidates or where they stand on certain issues. So, if you have an organization like this, which has people that you trust in it, and they're the way they think, you trust the way they think to be able to come up with a way of getting out the information on the candidates. That's probably the best alternative to that. You have that freedom of speech thing you've got to run up against if you try and control
Right.
people.
New level, new devil. I mean, you can't keep the New England Patriots from cheating at football. So how are you going to, people from out of signs,
They don't cheat, they just know the rules.
Take advantage of every aspect of the rule.
What Mike said is true. There's been suits that have gone up to the Supreme Court
Reading lips.
about
Rules.
the control of free speech, which people have the right to do. They can spend money to do that, and corporations are permitted to do that as well. So you're not going to be able to rein that in.
Yeah, it won't happen.
There is a big balancing act. There's a whole can of worms with that issue.
You pay a lot of money for something, but if you don't trust them, it's wasted money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what we found is the people that they ride around and we ask people, well, what made you vote for this person? Well, when I go by Ace, I love the owner of Ace Hardware. He had that sign out front,
Right.
which means he thinks that person is a good candidate.
What that is called.
Even though the guy Ace doesn't even know the guy that put the sign in the
And it
air.
hasn't talked to either of them.
Right.
What that is called, if I may, is TOMA, T-O-M-A. I've been a marketing director of 2 companies. TOMA, top of mind awareness. What that means is you ask somebody, where would you go for a burger, a funeral home, a car, go to Gilstrap or whatever. I do imitations, but whatever it was, they go, well, I'm thinking of Gilstrap. I'm thinking of, this Toyota thing or whatever, The reason is the more successive touch, smell, feel senses you engage. I got this, and you ask somebody, why did you think of this place for Toyota or burger, whatever? I don't know, but that's the thing that came to mind. All people look for TOMA, top of mind awareness. I smelled, I touched, I got in the mail, saw the email, got a phone call, went by, saw the sign. And as the more times you touch more successive senses, then after a while it's locked in their psyche, in their subconscious, and they'll automatically, I got to get a Toyota. I'm going to go here. And so that's the purpose. That's the purpose of it. Most people won't. You're the exception, but most people, that's what they'll gravitate toward, and that's the purpose of this. Why do they spend the money? That's because they engage in the senses of people. Right. That's it.
But that's the type of manipulation we're trying to teach people to realize. I now realize I was the guy that voted for whoever I saw the most signs.
Yep.
Didn't know. I was the guy who didn't know where to find the information, so didn't do the research.
It's very hard to find the information.
And you're right. about
Or,
that.
I mean, everybody should know a certain page in a newspaper, or their choice is 9 p.m. on the radio. You know, every night they can tune in and hear a 15-minute position statement, and it just rotates, and then every 2 months it's changed out. Or
How much do you believe in the newspaper?
Well, and that was going to be my statement.
It's a state law.
But
that
I
they
mean,
have
I don't
to-
believe anything in the newspaper.
But it's not an opinion piece. It's a state law where they have to print what the
But
candidate.
who's
They could just do a survey and then have all the
There has to be
answers for the
laws,
candidate.
election laws that.
Maybe
set
RJ
all
May
stuff.
should head that up.
I mean, that's corruption, so how do you
Because
get
he's
that?
corrupt. This is corruption. That's the problem. Whoever's heading it up is going to be paid under the table to sway the whichever way it leans, to sway the truth, to sway reality, to sway what the people
Is
read.
writing the questions, and you have a committee that comes up with the questions and the positions.
But,
And
but
that
realize
committee has
too,
to be
the
done by
committee,
lottery.
the committee can be tainted. The
Right.
news, I will tell you one of the
By
biggest,
lottery, you have like certain number of Republicans.
They're going to put
that-
signs out for the committee.
but I will tell you, one of the biggest things that we deal with candidates, I've seen as a problem, the paper will call you to get your position on things and your little interview. But you know who they call? They call the candidates they know. And if you're representing or trying to
It's
help,
required by law to print.
okay,
all of-
and
all the
that's
candidates.
something, yes, required by law, you have to do X, Y, and Z and make these efforts and all that kind of stuff. But you got some candidates that don't even participate in that type of stuff. You got some that just miss it because they're inexperienced and they've never run a campaign and they don't have there's
Well, that's a big statement about maybe we don't want to vote for them. They can't even fill out a form.
I know.
Yeah, but there's grassroots people out that live out in the country that are farmers that I would vote for over any career politician, even if they're good. Because that grassroots, hardworking farmer is going to have we the people's interest in his heart, not in his wallet.
But the people in his district know that about him, so they'll vote for him.
Well, maybe, but how does he communicate it? How do you get it out there? Think about this from this perspective. I am working full time. I'm 24/7 doing something. I make plenty of money. I would like to donate to a candidate I like, but I can't be grassroots and go door knocking. So
And you don't have.
where
time
do
to
I
let.
get represented
Right.
in that, me as a grassroots person, I can go out door knock all day and help a client, a candidate.
I'll
Yeah.
vote for you, Jeff. Don't worry.
I'm moving to Lexington. I'm out. But it is a massive can of worms, and that the system is not right. And,
It sounds
and I don't know if there is a right system.
But it's never going to happen.
It's the crony system.
We can't even fix the problems we got going on now.
Whatever
That would
system you
just
get,
create a
you
new
can
bunch of department of corruptions, as I call it. There's areas now that are people are realizing that it's not just it's in every aspect. The hospital, the police department, the school, the board of education, every single bit of even the churches are involved in this giant ball of corruption. And until we can fix all of that, just worried about how many signs someone has and a list of questions is going to be an uphill climb, a real big
But we
climb.
can talk about it.
Yep.
We can say this is what it should be.
Well, Poland actually, 24 hours before the election, they say you can't do anything. There's no.
It's a law, and ironically, when I researched, you guys had this law until maybe the 90s.
You guys.
You guys. did.
You guys.
What's your party, you guys? What's your party, you guys?
That is all y'all.
Use before her time.
Say it, y'all.
And if you're a New Englander, it's you guys, right? Is that
I don't know
right?
exactly.
You say it, New England?
In New York.
Oh, New York?
These guys.
All right, Ray?
I just wanted to say, this country is founded because the colonists said, God, we don't want you to appoint a king over us. We want to vote ourselves. And God blessed us and said, okay, you can vote over yourselves. We have, part of our covenant with God is that we have to educate ourselves for our leadership. And if we violate that covenant, then we get what we deserve.
There's too many churches that won't even bring up politics. They don't even want to talk about it.
Oh,
That's a
the
great
They want to
churches
even
churches
talk
don't even
about it.
want to talk biblically about
They,
hell anymore.
you know how many,
It's revelation.
They are, the churches have become so dumbed down, yeah, that's a good way to put it, but they've become so paranoid about saying the wrong thing
Right.
that the government's gonna step in and slap them down or take them to jail. And instead of preaching from the pulpit what they've been supposed to be preaching, they just turn around and turn a blind eye to it. The corruption in our government, that's what their job is. Their job should be shining a light on that same corruption in the government like they should have been doing for a long time.
And in our education system, it's been dumbed down.
They keep dumbing the education system down every year. Heck, these kids these days, they come out of high school, they've got a piece of paper. That's all it is. They don't have any skill set. They can't do anything. So what do they got to do? They either have to go to get a Burger King flipping burgers job,
Right.
or else they got to go to tech school or to college somewhere.
or they do illegal stuff.
Or they're doing illegal stuff. And more and more of them are doing that.
Yeah. I as a tax guy, I find it interesting. I actually say, oh, what if I'm a kid that does all the right stuff? I go get my college education, my trade education. I get whatever job that I can make. I go work 40 or 60 hours a week doing all that kind of stuff. I make X after paying taxes and all this stuff. You know, what is my net? You know, I did all that work. What do I kind of net, or what's kind of my life or my lifestyle as compared to, oh, I can be on government assistance and I get X, you know, and then I can do a little bit of stuff illegal, which I don't pay taxes on. Guess what? The numbers are much better for the kid that's on government assistance and doing the illegal stuff or off book stuff that they're not, you know, paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm like,
So you're saying public hangings?
public hangings?
That'll curb that quick.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
Well, in reality, you're partially right about that. I'm talking about getting rid of the more of the government assistance and all that kind of stuff.
I don't discourage people that need the government assistance. But I remember when government assistance first started in the 60s, because that's my time, 60s, early 70s. You didn't get a free ride. You got assistance based on your ability to do some work.
You had to show.
You had to
you were
show you
applying
were
for
at
a
least
job.
trying to do something.
Well, the Democrats.
And then they chose what you got.
But
You
they're
got a
buying
pocket cheese,
votes.
You got a gallon.
You
milk,
realize
got
all of
bread.
that was
Here's
about
your
buying
pocket cheese.
votes.
This is what you're allowed to get. But now they've given them this piece of plastic so they don't make them feel like they're discriminated against, to make it look like they're up there with a regular debit card like everybody else. When you know, I've seen it myself more than one time. Be standing in line behind somebody with 2 freaking shopping carts full of stuff, and she's wearing freaking gold rings, gold chains, and for high-dollar clothes. And here she swipes her debit card, her EBT card for $500 worth of groceries, and then she goes pushes out, putting it in the back of an escalator. And you're like,
Manicures
How do-
out here.
so you, how do I get the same benefit that that person does?
They talk
Go
about
apply.
education. Talking about education, my mom, who died a couple of years ago now, 2.5 years ago, was at 98 and a half.
Wow.
And she ran the finance, my father's an independent contractor, and she ran the finances because in high school, they taught that, in his late 30s, early 40s, they taught home economics.
That's right.
They taught all the things you needed to get by in life.
You had shop,
We
mechanic
had an
class.
excellent high school education.
I agree.
Yeah, and, you know.
Yeah, why don't they
Very
teach
well read.
students
She
how to
was-
balance a checkbook?
She
You
knew
know,
all
I
that
mean,
coming out of high school.
You ask this,
Yeah.
this generation that's coming out of high school now about Pamela checkbook. They'll look at you.
They don't even know what it is.
What do I do with this?
Yeah.
I want to get Pamela first.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's looking at you, Pamela.
Pamela,
Well, we're talking about corruption.
since we're talking about corruption, you mind coming down here? So I want to make sure people hear what you have to say. Pamela attended, obviously she's seen all of it. In
Wait, you gonna play the music? Here she comes.
I just wondered, I just wondered who was he standing behind Pamela? You know,
Okay.
all the fancy stuff. Yeah, getting the $500 worth of food.
Where am I looking? What are we doing?
Oh, you're
And my shoulders are
you'll
kinda
see,
tight.
Over there.
yeah, we're on that camera, you can see there, and
Alright.
I think people can hear you here. But you were at, last night, David Pasco did something
he
in
did.
Sandy Run or whatever.
So David Pasco, spoke at the Sandy Run Community Center. He had asked me to come and bring some support, and I did, from our official Lexington team. And we showed up, and the Sandy Run group said, "What's up with this? There's more from Lexington here than our folks." But we were happy to be there. He has a new PowerPoint. He's sharing information about judges that are controlled by legislature. He's giving names. He's taking names. We were discussing how we've got to get rid of the lawyer legislators and the lobbyists. They control everything. And this is our focus for 25, 26.
He's preaching our language of what we've been talking about. And for me to be able to see somebody that's in an elected position now, that's been in this type of government elected position for a while, and that actually has the potential of becoming the attorney general of the state. To say this, it's like amazing. And I'll give a shout out to Nancy Mays too. You know, she's out there saying a bunch of things. She was talking about lawyer legislators the other day and some other things out there. And it's just dumbfounding to me to see how we are now progressing. And again, I will attribute it to Trump and the things that I say because, you know, of that type of stuff. And the fact that we're getting closer and closer to people that are willing to say these things because they knew it, they wouldn't say it before. So David's been, you know, all disclosure, he was a classmate of mine at the Citadel. I've told him before, and I've told everybody, I'm not into turning Democrats into Republicans. If you're still a Democrat in 2024, I really don't want to convert you to a Republican. That's what Drew McKissick does and those types. But I will say this is the one exception to the rule. Because if you can find me a better Republican, any Republican that will talk hard on crime and go after lawyer legislators and name names, the guy is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that he's naming names.
He is.
We name names and then they come after. They are going.
He said he's making enemies. He's made
making a
and
lot of
making enemies ever since he exposed the Quindom.
Yes.
Okay. And I have a lot of respect for David because when all the corruption and all of the exposure was going on when I was chair in Lexington, 2023, he stood up and he, you know, exposed and made a difference in the case. I have to say that more than any other Republican, you know, as far as a solicitor or a government official, he was right there. And a lot of the connections to Quindom led to Lexington. And so that's why all the hounds of hell came on myself and our team, you know, with what they did. I can't really go into details here because we're in the middle of lawfare with these folks. And I will be able to report more in the fall. But David and Assistant Solicitor Baker and myself will come up to Greenville soon in the fall and talk about all of this in detail. They have a PowerPoint presentation that we did in Pickens recently, but it will have an updated one about all the corruption. And David's getting involved right now with the corruption in Pickens as well. Yeah. So I'm very impressed with David. He looks at Republicans and Democrats, and he's involved in an organization called Citizens Crushing Corruption. And they're from all backgrounds. And I support that because you've either got right and wrong, right? It's good and evil. It's not about party.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not about Republicans versus Democrats. It's the establishment of both of those parties against we the people.
That's right. And one thing I want to tell some of you who are new here, again, without getting into too many details, in Lexington, people don't realize the scope of trauma that we experienced at egregious meetings that were held, Antifa tactic meetings where our senior members were physically attacked and assaulted, and they were abused with stompings and physical attacks and
Grab lanyards on the neck.
just all kinds of things that it's very much, they're all still traumatized.
80-year-old.
These are the Republicans.
Yeah,
Realize this is not, some people bust in by Soros. These are Republicans that are part of the
all
party.
because they wanted power, and perks and to align with the establishment. And they saw me in their way of that. And I wouldn't back down. They thought it would cause me to resign. And that wasn't happening. And so at the end of the day, though, they did things like come to our home. We had a teenager I homeschooled in the house. They would knock on the door with weird delivery people who would cover up the ring and park 2 houses up. They post pictures of my home with my car and say she's home.
Now's the time she's home.
They would post
It's
all.
intimidating. Think about the
They
intimidation.
sent me a
They
sheriff's
want
letter.
you to find out about this stuff. And I've seen
Yeah.
this stuff
They
too.
took
So,
parts off of our vehicle so
Yeah.
that we would crash.
bolts out of our car that we had analyzed and written up. They would do all kinds of nefarious things. They sent a sheriff's letter to my house saying, this is how I knew. I was like,
Do not
this
call.
is very questionable. Sheriff letterhead from our county to my name, Ms. Godwin. And it was actually, they put Miss and it's Mrs., but they did that. And then they put case number, and this is really, really weird, LCRP, and then numbers after it. That's not a Lexington County case number. But they put at the top and they put, Dear Miss Godwin, you must show up at this address, okay, within 10 days or we're coming, for you.
Do not call.
Call because they won't have information for you. That right there was suspect. And I talked to the attorney and he's like, what are you going to do? I would just not answer it. I'm like, I'm ignoring this. And it's like he said, call me if they come and get you. And I never, nobody ever came. And that was fake.
It's a threat.
And this is going to be part of our lawfare. But those who are sending out fake sheriff letters should be ashamed.
Well,
They should be about an unpaid elected county position, all because they want your position. They want to take it and not earn it through reorg and convention. That is messed up. And God knows and sees everything. And so at the end of the day, we're carrying this on. We're standing up for we the people. We're standing up against tyranny. And we're not going to put up with it because it's wrong on every level. And since then, since this group splintered off, they have now splintered.
Again.
The splinter has splintered. So there's two factions within the splinter, and they're arguing, fighting publicly on social media. So
and neither of them like to be. So.
no. They, in fact, what I was told is that the convention, the blue document that was on everybody's chair about who supported Drew, the current leadership, him and the state EC endorsed Drew McKissick. Okay. The current leadership. In addition to that, there was someone they supported, the current leadership supported that ran for senator in District 23, Carlisle Kennedy. Don't have all the details yet, but supposedly they put him out there as a America First guy. And now he is flipped and doing things allegedly for he's a lawyer.
No, of course.
Doing things for his business and voting that way. Again, I haven't looked into it in depth, but there's all kinds of posts on Facebook about it. Right now, we're in the process of growing our team. We have quorum. We've met with quorum ever since they splintered off from us. And we have a loyal MAGA, real America First team that loves our president. And we are not ashamed to stand up for Make America Great Again. If somebody's got a problem with MAGA, they have a problem. They need to live with them. Because if you're not for America, then you don't need to be here. You don't need to be a part of this movement. Because that's what we stand for. It's God, family, country.
Yes.
And yes, always.
You're announcing you run for president right here.
That's it. I'm announcing right now. Who knows? Who knows what's next? But God knows. We are pursuing and continuing this fight, this venture. Our prayer for South Carolina to actually be read, to have government officials and legislators who adhere to our Constitution.
Yes.
And that they love God and country, and more than anything, our state. And this is what's important to me. I've done this almost 8 years, and I'm going to continue to do it. Thanks, Jeff.
You're here.
Olga and I have been doing this a little bit longer than 8 years
Yes.
because we got involved in that school choice thing from 13 to 16, the Trump, and when they took the program away in 2016. And, so we saw a little bit about that, got excited about Trump, and it's just, came bar the door, I guess, full speed. But some of this stuff is scary. I have no problem with our workers, folks. You want to get out there and take the arrow, yourself out. But I got no problem, number one, with workers and folks in the background doing things. If you want to write FOIA requests, I'll sign them. Put them on our letterhead, we'll do whatever. We'll push that type of stuff. I don't mind being the target of this type of stuff. But Pamela has been a target too. And the one thing that I've told her and her husband Angus, Captain Angus, is I can't say enough. The fact that she is not back down. There have been other people in her situation, similar, I get goosebumps, you talk about, but similar situations, men and women that have been in leadership positions in the GOP that have been subject to a tenth of what you've suffered through, literally a tenth, and they quit. They're like, I'm out. You know, and it's a testament to you and your courage and all that type of stuff. Some of us, I guess, we're so used to it, we can't quit. Somebody, and I'm not picking on the person who said this to me, but they were like, why are you all doing this? And I'm like, is it not clear? Yes, I know that's
Sounds like a little.
which two ringtone are we gonna am I gonna put on my phone? But I mean they were talking. I mean, Olga and I've been doing this for a long time, right? And it's kind of like the person saying, you know, why are you doing it? I'm like, doing it the same reason I've been saying forever. I mean, we're going to fix school choice. These people are going to do it, and I'm going to chop off heads until they fix freaking school choice. Good. Anybody that has done this to kids, special needs kids especially, and tolerated, Adam Morgan being one of them, I'm still picking it on him. I don't know why, because he's out. But I'm like, but there's, you know, he is the kind of the example of it, you know, because he lied to everybody, but at the same time, he was one of the ones facilitating, you know, what was going on with this and hurting special needs children. I'm going to chop those people's heads off until we get to a legislature that is going to do the right thing by kids. If you think I'm doing the wrong thing on the school choice we're pushing, let's have a discussion. I got no problem. If you think I'm just doing it to ingratiate myself, do things for that, I'll have that discussion with you. But they can't have that discussion with me because they're like, there's no money on our side.
That's the reason why something like over here at this. They just don't want to discuss the real deal.
Right, which is the other side of it. Is, you know, I mean, they accuse me of all kinds of criminality and all kinds of bad things, while, you know, RJ May, child pornography. I mean, all kinds of and other people that they're related to. I mean, Nate Lloyd's first cousin here in Greenville lives down the street. He's on Interpol's most wanted list. I mean, Rusty Lloyd is, Google his name. He's on Interpol's most wanted list for pornography, possession, distribution of child pornography in 2012.
And he's been on the run since.
And he's been on the run since. Who's this?
He works for
Rusty Lloyd. Randall Lloyd, Rusty Lloyd. Google his name. We'll put it out there. Share it with. But I mean, he's the same age as Adam. He went to Bob Jones at the same time. I mean, he's the first cousin of the guy that sits outside your doors, office manager, that you refuse to get away from. Right? I mean, Nate Lloyd cost Adam Morgan his election to the 4th Congressional District. He would probably be our congressman today. He separated himself from that piece of or whatever. But you know, and they're accusing me. And I'm like, you've got so much criminality surrounding you. His wife's uncle was convicted of 24 years international drug trafficking over in Hong Kong.
Right.
While, you know, go look on his Facebook page today, and I shared a little chat that we were on. You know, I mean, happy birthday, Adam.
That's right.
You know, in April, and I'm like, you know, you're surrounded by criminality.
Right.
You know,
and then they're accusing you of things that allegedly happened 15, 20 years ago. And it's just it's a joke. They need to focus on their own things. Here's another thing I just brought to mind last night. David Pasco was naming these judges, and I was just, one of them was a Harrison, who was a female judge, incredible conservative judge, either Harrison or Harris, I can't remember. And they let her go. Why? The legislators, because she was a conservative judge aligning with we the people, and they couldn't have that. Another judge, just let his term go out, say you're done, and they replaced him with who? Family members. 2 different family members. One was, I think, Rankin's family member, and then the other one was, I think Merle Smith's family member. I'll have to go back and double check that. But he has the names on his new PowerPoint, so they'll be going over that maybe in September, October. And I do want to add this in. As you were speaking, I was thinking about this. The egregious thing, mostly, that I'll tell you, besides all of the crazy lies and attacks, the most egregious was that I was elected number 11 out of 51 state delegate for Lexington. And they stopped me from participating in our district convention and the state convention that came up. In fact, they escorted me out by cops, not one, not 2, but 3 cops. Why? I showed up to be there to vote, to take a part of the convention because I was a duly elected state delegate. And they said, no, you're not. You're not a member. I'm like, what?
Not her.
I said, I paid online. Oh, we refunded it. I'm like, I didn't even see that. Oh, well, we did it. And I'm like, wow, so you're taking away my rights. And the voters are being, it's a voter disenfranchisement. And you're doing that. And I can't participate. Not only that, all these 8 years of work culminated in, I wanted to go to Wisconsin, be with my like-minded friends, our patriot friends from across the state that I've worked with for years, to go and support President Trump. That didn't happen because I wasn't allowed to participate and be the
Instead,
delegate that I
Mark
was
Weber
going to be.
went through it and spread lies to everyone.
Of course.
So I got kicked out of the state executive committee meeting in December of 2021. Olga was sitting outside because obviously they won't let guests in. And there's always one police officer there. And she texted me, what was it, two extra ones showed up? Something must be going on because 2 extra cops just showed up.
Right.
So they had me walked out, 3 cops as well.
Right. So here's the deal. One of the cops turned to me because I knew who they were because he knew that I'd done back the blue events that they'd been at, that I was hosting. And he said lowly, they just don't want you there. Hope and True don't want you there, Pamela. Wow. Since when are they in charge? Them over the voters? I mean, that's a violation of my rights. But no, it wasn't just me. I mean, to me, at that moment, it was me, but it was to Kim Moran, it was to Olga Blanford, and others. But they were escorted out by cops and violated their rights.
And most people, it will get them to quit and walk away.
Right.
But there's a
Not
few
her.
of us.
Not her.
Double down.
Oh, but you lit a fire
Yes.
under her.
They
is all
did
you
they did
did.
the same thing.
Exactly. I mean, they created a monster. You and me. I mean, in a
Look
good
at the
way.
hair.
That's
I've seen her on fire.
But to finish my story, the person asked me, they're like, "Well, you're doing it." And I gave you my story while we're doing it. And I'm like, "I've been saying this for 10 plus years." I'm like, "Well, why is this new?" But they're like, "Oh, the ROI on us advocating for school choice was just not there." I'm essentially like, "Why don't you just quit?" And I'm like, "I'm not here for a return on investment."
Like you.
I'm whatever. And I don't think the person really meant it in that sense, but they do look at it in the sense of, what, why? I'm like, I'm not here for a return on investment. I've seen the evil underside of something, and it needs to be fixed.
That would be pathetic to say on return on investment when kids coming out of school, what's the return on the investment?
Right. My return on investment is going to be when we get $100 million program in the
You need
state.
to look at it both ways.
It's
You want
future.
return on
Yes.
investment here, you
Right.
gotta look at it here too.
Right.
And right now, it wouldn't matter because it definitely don't pan out. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know I've got friends of mine that do homeschooling and their kids do.
Oh yeah.
But
And
one of
their kids are so much fun.
I am dumbfounded by how smart homeschoolers are. I'm mad at my mother for not homeschooling me.
one of the
But I guess the homeschool kids my age, they were all the weird ones.
one of the other main
That's really
reasons one of the other main reasons Pamela is not backing down
Yes.
is because what's going to stop them get you back down? The next person comes in, they do the same
They're
thing.
going to do. And they do.
And the
They
next
did it
person
to
comes in,
Presley.
and they
They
And they
did.
did it to me.
It's got
They
to
did it to
stop.
Yvonne the past 2 years.
Got to
They'll do
stop.
it whoever is next. They will do it to everybody.
If you keep pushing back,
What did
it's
Kathy
gonna
Davis, the new chair
sooner
over
or later.
in Pickens, do? She's a nice lady. I mean, what did she do? I know what you and I did. But she's not like, on that far right kind of
And
crazy
she
side.
hasn't had the time and opportunity to stand up for all these things
Right.
that we have for
But you're
years.
seeing it now.
And we become a target. We are over the target, too right leaning, and they just
Look
attack.
at Donna Gotcha.
Oh yeah,
Look what they did to Donna. They would not let Donna be
They're
a
doing it
guest.
again.
They would not let her be a guest to the RNC.
She won in court, and they're doing the exact same thing to her again.
Yeah, but she's not
They'll
backing down
continue
either.
to do the same thing as long as.
But it was hard. It's been very hard for her too.
If there's nothing to back up the court telling them you have to do this, if the court doesn't ever do it, if there's no facet that can force it to happen, the courts are useless.
Courts are a problem, which, even in my case, they put a stay on my case in Newberry till November of this year. So we have nothing going until November because of my health stuff. But literally in the judge's order that he filed, I mean, and a lot of this stuff has to be redacted. It was supposed to be redacted because of medical information and things like that. He filed it. I think it was the third order. The third order literally listed all 4 of my doctors in there. And he sent it over to the clerk's office. And they were trying to dox my doctors because, people will harass them to do things like that. And I did, fortunately, he did respond immediately. The person at the clerk's office responded immediately about, oh yeah, we need to, black that out or do something, take the names out. But why would he even write the names of my doctors in there in the first place?
That's
You can
bizarre.
do doctor number 1, some code or something, like doctor number 2. You can do that, but he put those in there. Had I not seen that email come through, it would have been filed. All my doctors were docs, right? So, I mean, that would have been a problem. But what I also find very, very interesting, and I have to follow this, and I'll have to follow it with my report to the Court of Appeals, because every month I got to give them a report. They put a stay on it too, because of certain reasons, because this never happened before. Nobody has ever seen what's going on with me in Newberry ever happened. And actually, it was funny. Somebody on the other side made some comment on a post that's a lawyer said, in my entire career, this person was not my entire career. The law is like, wow, I've never seen this. So obviously it must be Superman. Like okay, but you don't actually know what's going on. And this person should. But he literally put in there, and I have the other orders that say this, that, he's provided all this medical information, but he's provided no financial information. So he is setting it up. And I can read the orders and know what's going on. He is setting up to sit there and say, I'm going to still find you in willful contempt because you have refused to provide financial information. Go back and look at order number 1 out of these 3 orders. It literally says in there, we are not going to deal with financial stuff now. The Court of Appeals said to look at his health issues to prove that he actually had cancer, because they wouldn't admit that I had cancer, even though first I didn't provide enough information, $500,000 medical bills, they said that's not enough information, and a diagnosis of cancer, that wasn't enough information. And then now they're saying I provided too much. That's why I wanted the doctor's notes.
Bring the biopsy.
Too much.
But I'm like, literally, I mean, and it's saying he literally, the first order, the court talked about cancer diagnosis. They said, we want you to look at that specifically because I made the allegation that the judge did not believe me. And he really didn't like when I put part of the transcript that I bought in my last update on a sworn affidavit that I gave to the Court of Appeals, where this is exactly what the judge said, which pretty much says, I don't believe you.
That's what
I know. And so, but then in this third order, he sits there and says, he's provided all this medical information, but nothing on the financial side. And I've not heard that discussed except with the other lawyers. That when I've talked to the other lawyers independently, the other lawyers said, you've given all this medical information, but you've given nothing on the financial side. They're talking to the judge outside of my presence. They're definitely talking, because the judge has specifically said, I'm not going to rule on anything on the financial stuff. Do not provide anything on the financial stuff. But then in his third order, Mr. Davis is not providing financial information. So he's going to sit there and rule me in contempt of court, willful contempt of court again, saying I'm not doing it, had I not catched it. Now, I will file that with the Court of Appeals, and I will say, here's order number 1, where he said, do not do anything on the financial. Here's order number 2, where the retired judge is sitting there almost accusing me again of contempt of court by not providing financial information. And I'm like, that's how I got in this mess in the first place, because you said one thing over here, and you did things over. I mean, you really think I was in willful contempt of a judge telling me something to do? When I got the transcripts of everything, Judge, you're right, I'll do anything you need me to do. What do you need me to do? I can't physically go write a $40,000 check to those people right now. Prove that I can, or here's the sworn information that I can't. They can't put you in jail if you can't do something, if you can't comply. So I've got a situation where I can't comply.
It's just
the
their
reason. Yeah, but they want to put me in jail. And part of the reason is, as I've talked about before, and we'll get to your report, but part of the reason is, you know what? I should have had this surgery that I'm getting in a few weeks. I should have had it in January or February. And had I done that, the surgical clips would have been cut out, and the cancer would not have grown back to the surgical clips, which is what the doctors say where it came from. And I'm like, you little sons of bitches. You know, I was like there, and I got to go through 4 extra rounds of chemo and then do, you know, this surgery. My fault for falling for their BS. But guess who it is? Chad Conley, whose son is one of the primary witnesses against Pickens. It's the same people. You know, Victoria Coward is the one going after Pickens. Who endorsed Victoria Coward to be the state DC for Berkeley County?
Yes.
Jordan Pace, chairman of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus in Berkeley, endorsed the six-year chairperson, Drew Bott, Victoria Coward, to be the state DC. And Victoria, anybody who was in the meeting last week, she is the loudest voice going after Pickens.
Yes.
And don't tell me that the Freedom Caucus and Drew people are not working together, because they did it to us in 21, they did it to us in 23, they did it to you in 23. Freedom Caucus people in Lexington, and now the new chairman down in Berkeley is doing it to all of us. So it's crazy.
Yes, folks that were tied into they were actually buddies with RJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all buddies. They were
Maybe
all
they
from
should share a
Lexington.
cell.
And the other
They
thing was,
must be sharing videos, be my guess. Yeah,
here's
but
here's the,
I know nothing. I'm not saying about,
here's
but I would not be shocked.
Chances are good.
Let me, from a legal perspective, let me disclaim: I would not be surprised if those people were not, more people were not participating.
It
And I
is.
hope RJ names everybody.
it is disheartening to me that we have legislators out there for freedom. They say they're for freedom, for liberty, for we the people. And they are out there on the other side going, oh, I'll endorse you. And they're an establishment candidate supported by our SEGOP leadership. How is that okay? It's not okay. And so this is happening all the time in various counties. But here's the good news. People are speaking up. They are tired of the tyranny. We have more counties involved now, and they are speaking up, members of these different counties, and saying, this is wrong. How do we deal with this? And they're looking at lawfare. They're looking at other measures. And we're going multi-state to work with states that have issues with their GOP, like Georgia or Michigan, right? And so I know that I'm doing that behind the scenes, and I encourage others to join me, to use your voice and to reach out to any of us to get involved. You can always reach out to me at honorpresstrump@gmail.com.
Say it again.
Honor Press Trump. That's HONORPRESTRUMP@gmail.com. Honor Press Trump. I've had that forever, that email. And I love President Trump, but really our movement, y'all, the MAGA movement, it's about policy. It's about we the people. And I'm proud of what he's done as our president. And we just got to continue to go forward with these policies and
But
principles.
to think about, if Donald Trump, I mean, he risked everything.
He did.
I mean, he would be
He
in
did.
jail right now
He did.
had he lost that election.
Oh, he did.
He'd be in jail.
And they did things to us, a lot of us, and to me, that they did to him, or obviously on a much smaller, scale. But still, this is important to us locally, right? People, podcasters out there, patriots, I would call them PAYTRIOT. And they're out there, they put me on my face with a picture of Hitler or Stalin. I said, you know what? They did this to Trump. So, hey,
Did it
I'm in
also
good
here.
company. We're in good company. Yeah.
So,
It's the opposite.
yeah, it really is, and it's just amazing. And it's funny to watch those people who do splinter off.
Yeah.
And then watch them realize, oh my God, we are on the evil side. Because I think that's what happened with the splinters down there. They're not going to admit and just come back to us and say, oh, you guys were right. Weber was working with Drew and all that stuff. And I think they saw Weber was working with Drew, and it's like, oh my God, we actually are working with Drew. And and I made the comment about some of our splinters, up here, is they literally, people thought I was crazy when I said, hey, they're working with Drew. Now they're actually literally openly working with Drew.
Yep.
And then they're like literally on Facebook talking to Drew and talking to me. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, why did you not believe me?
It's like the
When I
word
first
that
saw
he said. That is it. Say it again.
Alethiophobia.
Alethiophobia. It's just refusing to see the truth. And what was the rest of the definition? You had it was intent. It was a good one.
Okay.
So let's see that one more time.
Fear of truth.
Oh, the top line, where the rest of the definition of alethiophobia, hang on.
Yeah, that was really good.
Alethiophobia is the term for an intense fear or aversion to the truth, often stemming from an unwillingness to confront or acknowledge facts and realities. It can also be described as an aversion to or fear of the truth.
They're easily identified by wearing their mask in their car by themselves.
Or whatever I put on the screen, where you can also identify people with the, in addition to the definition, the signs of the aliphobia is not only unwillingness to accept reality, potential for emotional distress, may be related to other mental health.
Yes.
Oh, that would describe the splinter group in the
That
faction.
You just know some of the people.
Would you spell that word again?
ALETHO phobia. ALETHOPHOBIA. I've done life counseling for about 40 years of church leaders, and I'll tell you, that's correct. You said, because it's not just being afraid. Because guess what? Jeff's afraid, Lisa's afraid, we're all afraid, but we have to do stuff despite fear. But there's an underlying, you want to get spiritual, emotional, and psychological, where it's like, oh, this happened, and basically it's not overcome trauma once past. I won't get too deep, but basically, and I'm a lay counselor, that's all. Okay, I'm not a licensed. But when they don't deal with their stuff, then it's so much easier. Oh, I'm not, the church leaders I'm talking to, why don't you talk about this and this? Oh, we're exercising wisdom. Oh, good, I'm afraid you're a coward. If I may, it's death by 1,000 cuts. They want that basically our enemies want to distract, dilute our energies, and it's important to be single-minded. So, to your point, sir, I don't remember your name, but the gentleman who was asking, about going to the protester meeting against the no keeps tomorrow. Angus, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so we're interceding, we're doing other things, but basically one should stay in one's single-minded lane. The problem is what I see is spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, financially, and in every other way, our enemies are trying to delude us. Like, did you hear about Jeff? Did you hear about this guy, this jerk Trace Willits, the big mouth over here? Did you hear about that? And so what happens is, it's like, well, I'll bet you're blankophobic. No, I'm not. And so now you're on the defensive, and so you're getting diluted here. 5% of your energy there, 10% over in lawfare here, and all that. And so what I suggest is be single-minded. If you're going to the event tomorrow, writing letters to the editor, running for office, doing, interceding as we do a newsletter privately, but all that stuff, be single-minded with excellence, noble excellence of whatever that be, and just keep pounding away.
Oh, I'm going to be pounding.
Yeah.
But very similar to what we're doing, and y'all have heard me in our Greenville meetings, we're not going to be distracted.
No.
We still get distracted on little things, and we want to take care, and I want people to learn from some examples of things. But we are going to be singularly focused on winning mission. We're not going to be distracted by people, oh, I didn't get the email. Please, Jeff's cutting me off the email. I didn't cut you off an email. I want you to read our stuff. I want you to hear what's going on, because, they don't want to see the truth. I want them to see the truth as much as possible. We're not going to get distracted by those people that are sitting there that have used a lot of those political tactics over the years to get us off mission. We got to focus on mission.
To expound upon what he said, and I'm going to end with this, is I always like to share that, all of us, we have our gifts and traits from the Lord, right? So we need to stay in that lane and focus on those things, what our strengths are. But many of us, some of us are frontline, sidelines, behind the lines, right? But we do have these particular traits and gifts that God gave us. So let's focus on those and get out and support our country, our state, our county, and y'all are doing a great job.
We appreciate you coming out here. You're driving a nice car.
That's it.
The barbecue is tomorrow. I want to get Ray's update real quick on the pro-life committee. You guys don't mind switching seats, so I can get him over here, and we'll do that. But the pickings, if you can come, if you're around, come over 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. I don't know if there was an RSVP.
Excuse me.
No, I don't think
So I
there
don't know how
was.
much barbecue they're gonna have, but I'm
Not
hungry.
enough for Jeff Davis.
And I like mustard sauce. I'm a mustard based, got Duke's barbecue.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ray. Ray's got our pro-life update and what we're doing on that area. Obviously, we got our legislative committee, and then some of those committees have their own. In the pro-life committee is one of our top. So we'd like Ray to give his update.
Last Monday, I had my talk on the abortion law for South Carolina, and I talked about all three bills at length. We had 18 people attend that, so I want to thank everyone who showed up. On the 24th, I've been invited to give a pro-life talk at Cherokee County Republican Party, so I'll be there. I was given about a 20-minute, told I had about a 20-minute block.
Good.
On the news.
When is that? When are you doing that?
That's going to be on the 24th.
24th? Okay.
24th of this month.
Okay.
On the news side, Representative Sherry Biggs co-sponsored HR 589, which is the FACE Act Repeal Act of 2025. So far, she's the only South Carolina legislator that has co-signed that bill. And for those who don't know, she's basically covers everything to the west and south of us. As far as
She's the southern part of Greenville County, but she's the 3rd district congressperson. So
and she has a little bit of us, a little bit of Newberry, and just about everything west and north of that.
it's about 10 or 11 counties.
Yeah, she covers a big area.
And I will just as a comment, sometimes the other congressmen don't know about these things. So if we can inform them about that, they'll look at it, and then if it's something they want to sponsor, they'll get on. So that's a good process to go through.
And part of my campaign is I'm going to send information through my contact chain, which is slowly but surely growing statewide, to notify their own representatives to get on board with this. Of course, we'll need support in the Senate as well, eventually. The abortion bill is being reviewed for safety issues, which is a big win. We can all pray that they'll do the right thing in what they decide to do with that, what the FDA decides to do with that. And also, Dr. Bailu, who invented the abortion pill, died on the 30th of May.
Oh,
Wow.
He was 98 years old. As far as
How do you spell that? Baylor.
Bailu?
Baulieu.
Okay.
And just to finish up with upcoming meetings, we already talked about this, but we have a prayer walk tomorrow. It's going to start at Christ King Church. We'll walk about a block to the abortion clinic, do something there, and then come back to finish the day up. Probably about an hour and a half worth of your time. Next month, we're going to do a showing of Vegas Baby, which talks about the IVF industry, and basically it's a reality show in Las Vegas as far as getting a chance to have one chance to have a IVF baby, and it's a documentary about that.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? What they're doing this lottery?
I think it's a bad thing. I mean, they're not even pretending that.
They're just mocking the whole process.
Well, yeah, they keep coming across, we're helping women and we're helping families, have children, but yet we're going to turn it into a game show.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
there's a disconnect in the morality they preach and the way they act out on it.
So is the documentary exposing that hypocrisy or the mocking of the process?
From what the movie's actually waiting in my mailbox for you right now. But from what I've seen from the trailer, it really highlights the misery that people have and how they're taking advantage of it. Because the people who want this, they're mortgaging their houses. I mean, they want children. So they're unhappy, and this industry's coming along and say, well, for $10, $20, $30, $50,000, we can give you a 1 in 6 chance of having your dream come true. And if that doesn't work, we'll try it 6 or 7 more times on top of that. So
How about we adopt babies instead?
well, that brings me up to my August talk. I have a gentleman coming in talking about adoption, so that'll be for August. And September, nothing firm yet, but right now I am working. John Hoover did get in touch with Bridget Van Means, and so we're looking to. What I'm hoping to do is have a Zoom talk with somebody who actually has been in a state that got no abortion law passed, and see if we can't get some insights from her, learn some things like that. And in that, pending any questions, that concludes my report.
Good job.
What have you been doing? That's good. I've been hiding my baby. Can you smell it on my breath? A lot of people know what an ABC store is.
That's funny.
So, well, thank you, Ray, for that. I mean, y'all did have, I got good reports for your meeting last Monday that y'all had in there. So,
Thank you.
y'all are doing a good job. And one of the big things that I've asked or tasked Ray on is to help us build a statewide network for this. The problem is people are not working together and working cooperatively. So, I've seen it in the school choice thing. We see it in this. I mean, people need to come to the table and work together to accomplish this. So I'm glad you're going to Cherokee and pushing that. So
Right here's my success story. These are counties and people that have gotten firm commitments to build my work with. And see, here's where I'm at as far as reaching out to GOP,
right,
the GOP parties in each committee. This is my secular side, mainly reaching out to churches, but there's been a few others as well.
Okay.
And several of these have gotten back with me. The person they want me to talk to is on vacation, and those kinds of things. But yeah, slowly but surely, this map is getting filled up. I hope to have 2 names in every county by the time I'm done.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we really need, and I want to do it now because it's too late to start this project in 2026. That's when we need it built.
Right.
That's
right.
when we need
And the bill that we're looking at supporting is McGrady's bill. Is that the bill that we want to work down or try to hammer through, or is it something else?
Well, in my analysis, I mean, all 3 bills are good. My analysis, my opinion of it is, though, if we can get McCravy's and Cash's bill to get passed, if we can get them to get out of committee, basically what I think would happen from that point is that we would basically accept McCravy's bill and a little bit of Cash's bill would get watered down because Cash does almost everything that McCravy's does, plus he does a lot more. So if both of them could get out of committee and something on the voting form, I think you would find something somewhere between McCravy's and Cash's.
Okay.
Harrison's bill I do like. That's definitely our end goal. I think it's a little strong for what the state could stomach right now. And I'd rather, my opinion is the reason why the left is so successful is that they're not worried about pushing it 1 or 2 yards down the line. We can't go for a Hail Mary pass them in the game all the time. We have to do the same thing. We have to keep going. We want the goal, but we have to work towards it. We just can't do a Hail Mary when it's 1st and 10 on your own 30.
Yeah. Incrementalism is okay if we're working with the right direction. The problem is, our problem with school choice is we actually had good school choice and they went backwards.
Exactly.
So and I know we got to educate people. We got to get people to figure it out. Right. And I will tell you, one of my tactics with and I tell them, I'm saying it, but with people that are somewhat on the middle and think we're okay with where we are today with our pro-life legislation. 6 weeks is fine, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, wait a second. Don't you want South Carolina to be the hardest pro-life legislation, 0, and that'll keep all these liberals from moving here? Because I think a lot of liberals are moving here because, they're like the person we ran into at the store in Maryland where at the inauguration. Oh, y'all have a great senator down in South Carolina with Lindsey Graham. I'm like, what in the world? Those people are literally moving here because they think Lindsey Graham's a great guy. And I'm like, wait a second. Well, yes, you looked at him as that was the bad with the good, right? But you were surprised about what you actually learned too when you got here. And a lot of the people that are walking in our door are surprised because guess what? They came from California, Washington State, or New York, or Jersey, and they're like, "Holy tamale! You guys are about as bad as worse than where we were 20 years ago." And part of the worstness is that most of the society down here, we think it's great.
Yeah.
We think we're a great red state, and that's it. Back to my initial thing of with the Freedom Caucus people is some of them, not all, but that with their tone and what they say, people just want to believe. Our people just want to believe, and in reality, we're worse than some blue states.
How better to disguise the evil?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
I grew up in California. I lived in Chicago. I have family going way back in New York on Long Island. If you go there, it's more like, oh yeah, it's obvious, but it's less obvious here.
But it's going on here.
Well, I want to say with that, a shout out to Liberty Harris. I've been following her on Facebook. She's a lovely young lady who's been getting out, speaking truth for her generation.
Homeschool.
And oh yeah, homeschool, beautiful, and just loving our country. You know, talking about liberty and freedom and promoting local businesses. Just thank you, Liberty. Thank you.
Just
great.
to add real quick what
Yes.
to Ray, to say a prayer that I assume this month the Supreme Court is going to rule that South Carolina hopefully can, they defunded Planned Parenthood in South Carolina from Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. And that's Planned Parenthood sued, so the Supreme Court should be starting on that this month.
The state Supreme Court?
No.
Oh,
US.
Oh, it went to US? Okay.
Yes. It's going to the US Supreme Court.
Okay.
Yeah, they would,
Yeah.
it's, I believe the last time I looked, it was expected to be a 4-2. So far, it seems to be 4-2 in favor of South Carolina with 3 undecided. So basically, it would have to be a clean sweep for the undecideds to go against us. But, you know, every time you leave it to a judge, you're putting your fate in someone else's hands. So don't give up on the power of prayer until they're there.
And I've never understood this. Why do we have to fund something that is repulsive to some people? You know, I mean, why do we have to fund Planned Parenthood? I don't even understand.
Well,
Where's the logic of that we have to fund anything?
Why is federal tax money being used to sue the state when a church can lose their federal tax money by saying anything that's even objectionable, much less political? It's just objectionable. I mean, the double standard is obvious for anyone who cares to look at reality.
But you're seeing it with Trump's doing, trying to call money back for stuff, and you know, it's crazy.
Just open their eyes and see where the problem is, and it boils down to who's paying who.
Yep.
It's all about the
The
money.
argument is they don't provide health care.
You only need to know one thing.
Extremely, Planned Parenthood doesn't provide health care.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the big arguments is that there's no reason to fund it because they, you know, we have all these other health clinics and all that stuff that don't do that and actually provide health care.
You know, this is where I encourage people all the time. You got to take a subject and dig deep. We had our legislative meeting last night, and we kind of talked about it. And we were trying to help people with, you can take a bill, drop it in AI, it'll summarize some things. Don't always trust AI because it will tell you things that are incorrect. And I will tell you the example I had the other day. I was looking at part of the big beautiful bill thing, and it was like part of it. It told me that Thomas Massey and Nancy Mace were the 2 negative votes on the Republican side. I'm like, I don't think Nancy Mace voted against the big beautiful bill, but that's what AI told me. What happened is Nancy Mace had voted against whatever HR 1 was 6 years ago, and I'm like, or whatever it was, I'm like, it somehow connected her with, and it was really Thomas Massey and some other outfit somewhere. But it was like, how did that get slipped in there? Yeah, and I'm like, and of course I played the little game. I'm like, here's the congressional record, here's the vote. I was wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, it's not a small mistake if I used your information and gone down there and trashed her on you were the one, blah, blah, blah. Check everything. But we were using that. But also the critical thing to talk about and think about is you've got to read the bills. You've got to read the actual language. It can be tough if you've never been to law school and all that stuff. But read it, study it, figure it out, because they can put all kinds of tricks in there. AI can help you find some of those tricks that they may have put in there. AI can look at a whole host of thousands of pages of documents to try to find tricks. But I'm like, you've got to do the work. Find a topic, and that's what we're going to do, I think, hopefully in the legislative committee with people, say, hey, this is your issue, dig deep. I don't know all the issues on the pro-life, but we got people that are digging deep. I can tell you every single issue on school choice because I'm dug deep.
Last night, we came up with 6 topics that we're looking
Are you carrying a weapon in here? Are you brandishing a weapon? I guess we can do that.
Yeah, that's legal.
Legal in South
We
Carolina.
love it.
This is not a soft target here.
So we came up with 6 topics on our platform. We're looking at closing primaries.
That's number one. Closed primaries is going to be our number one issue, because unless we get closed primaries.
Point is what I'm
I,
saying.
I got an answer for you on that now. Remember we
Oh,
talked
you work
about
on it?
that?
Good.
I want to talk to you after.
And you're going to have to dig deep. You're going to have to read the bills. You're being voluntold right now.
I'm already doing it.
What
Good.
I'm going through is our topics, and we've got people running with them, and I'm willing to have you run with this one.
Good.
We've got
Good.
tools for you. We'll go with you on that. Real school choice after that. Jeff and Olga are running that. They're going on that.
And part of why we're doing that is number two, because I wanted us to push some things tactically or process-wise that I think we can document and help with some of our other things, to show y'all as an example.
As a model to go
Right.
forward. Judicial reform, is there anybody willing to run with that? If you have emotions with that, go with that. Tort reform, right to life, Ray's running that, kind of running that. And medical freedom with Mike Bowden running on H54. Also, we're trying to do the same thing in local municipalities. We got, of course, Terry, you know me at name for his career.
Okay.
And then Irene over there says she's going to like go into all of them. So we're using the same model locally in the municipalities. Have someone go and monitor what's going on there, find out what's going to rally troops to push things or prevent things that are happening there. So basically, that's what we went through last night. And also, we go to Greenville County, we're going to Joe Farmer, see if he can help us out. So if you have an emotion, passion for something, come to me at the next meeting. Next month, we'll have another meeting, and I have things for you to do. All right? Thank you.
We don't want to overwhelm anybody with too much. Yeah, we got to go. Everybody's got to go. But we don't want to overwhelm everybody with too much, but we want to take all the projects, take one small one, and be very good. Go deep on the one small project. And I think we got enough people that we can spread all that out without overworking, our good volunteers doing it 24/7. Let's spread that out and give those distinct tasks to folks. And we're going to be talking a lot more about that over the coming months. So
The Freedom Caucus just put an email out. The South Carolina Freedom Caucus stands firmly for the rule of law and protection of children. Representative R.J. May has been expelled from our caucus. He has not been involved in the operations of the caucus since August of 24. We call for his immediate resignation from the House. Although formal charges have not been made public yet, which they have, all indications that these indictments will be for child sex abuse materials. These crimes are heinous, and we expect that they'll be fully investigated. We pray justice will be served. Jordan Pace.
that was put out Tuesday night, the 12th. I think it was Monday night before they did the indictment stuff. I'm sorry, what day?
Okay. I saw that.
That's what they put out?
Thanks for sharing.
Well, the indictment was out. But thanks for sharing that. But guess what? I got a video of their press conference on November 14th where they were defending him. They said, because the press was asking, why is he not here? And they're like, why would you? Jordan Pace literally said, why would you ask that question? Because they're totally raided his house for pornography. Right. That's why I'm asking the question, which is what the response was from the reporter. And I'm like,
and recent comments by current Lexington County Republican Party members saying, I would take a bullet for RJ. I would take a bullet.
Yeah. Well,
and we're like, what?
And that's the same person who was telling people that I was not only arrested, this was before the 23 chairman's race. She was telling people at a breakfast that I was not only arrested, but I was also at that time currently in jail.
Yeah, I heard that, and I just turned around real quick and I said, that is a lie, because I just talked to him. He's not calling me from jail.
And this was a Moms for Liberty person who also made RJ May in 2023 their legislator of the year. And at the same time, the people in Moms for Liberty down in the Dorchester, that area, I can't remember exactly who it was spreading all over the low country that I was in jail at the moment. And I'm like, for what?
None of it was true. It was just a total rumor propagated by this group
But
of
we have
folks.
got to wake up to this type of stuff. So, hey, we are way over. But I think this was a lot of great information. I thank you for coming. You guys for coming up.
We
and
enjoy
listening.
it all the time.
Always. You're
Good
always
folks in
welcome.
Greenville.
Thank y'all for everything. Send me the ringtone. I need the God.
I'm like, what is that?
If I could, I'd like to share something.
Oh, yes, please do. Come on, quick.
Before we leave, about 3 minutes, and I shared this last week with Spartanburg. I'm from Spartanburg, but I love
Yes.
coming here.
Yeah. Come over a little closer so you're closer to the speaker, so we make sure we hear you.
See, I'm from Spartanburg County, but
Yes.
I love coming here. People that can laugh and smile in the face of diversity is beautiful. But I shared this last week, and forgive me if I have a senior moment about education, about the umbrella we have, the Constitution of the United States. We are literally fighting for the soul of this country. And I would like to share this one statement at the beginning of the Constitution. Forgive me if I have a senior moment. And it goes like this, and I don't know if anybody remembers this. I learned this in 5th grade, and I never forgot it. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Without that one document, none of us here or anywhere be ever saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. And I like to share this also in closing a statement I believe it was from Adams. His Constitution is for a moral and religious people. It is whole and adequate to govern any other. Where are we today?
Right.
What are we discussing? Are we a moral religious people?
Right.
These people who are so-called our representatives.
Not our representatives, no, but our people.
The people of South Carolina are.
Absolutely.
We are
Oh, yeah, we have a great state.
Not you, not me, but we together.
Yes,
That's right.
that's good.
So do you like the Navy by any chance?
He was a submarine. His wife loved him being in the Navy because he was gone for 6 months. She told us the story.
Birthday.
She worked 50 years in the Army. Army-Navy game tomorrow. We all support the Army.
Thank you very much. I love this group. I
Okay,
appreciate it
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, George. We appreciate it. And we're going to ring the bell. We have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're out. Thank you all. Sorry we went too long. We started late. Bye-bye.